I was sort of thinking about, like, if I think of this and well, I can't say old Ulamog and I can't say new Ulamog anymore, so I don't know what to call it.
Oldamog, Midamog, new
Mid-Lamog. Nobody's running around saying we should ban Mid-Lamog.
No.
Do we have to call it Mid-Lamog? Can we think of something better?
Ulamid? Ulamiddle?
It's
Malcolm in the middle, but Eldrazi's.
Ulamiddle. Listen, we got to figure out the naming convention. If you got an idea in the comments, please let us know.
Tulamog.
Mid-Lamog. Two Lamog. One Lamog, two Lamog, three Lamog.
Yeah.
Not bad. Two Lamog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... I lost my point.
Sorry. This episode is brought to you by BOMBAS. Ready for a spring refresh? BOMBAS has absurdly soft new socks, tees, and underwear to help you get your sock drawer stocked for the season. All with a 100% happiness guarantee. Plus, BOMBAS has a one purchased, one donated mission, so every time you buy a comfortable new pair of socks from BOMBAS, you're also donating essential clothing to someone facing homelessness. To date, they've donated over 100 million items and counting. So head over to bombas.com/command-zone and use code COMMAND-ZONE for 20% off your first purchase.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
And today we continue talking about the brand new set, Modern Horizons 3.
Also known as Commander Masters 3.
Full of cards. It's full of cards. Today we're going to be talking about all of the cards you should be considering for your decks. Well, many of them. Because predictably, there's a lot of them. Modern Horizons sets are famously very powerful, so there's a lot of cards that you need to know to put into your decks or to play against.
Yeah, it turns out if something is good enough for Modern, then it's often good enough for Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful stuff.
Plus, it features some, like, beloved Commander strategies.
Yep.
There's more Eldrazi cards, there's more colorless support, and energy is a big factor in this set. So some brand new archetypes coming out of Modern Horizons as well.
Well, they got a ton of like throwback homages to like old cards that we already play. So as you can imagine, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff.
If you want to pick up any of those singles or sealed product for Modern Horizons 3 or beyond, we're going to be talking about a lot of Magic cards here today. You can pick up all of those over at cardkingdom.com/command. If you shop using that affiliate link, you are supporting the show and all of the people in this building that help keep the lights on, help keeping this podcast coming out. Plus, Card Kingdom is a huge selection of Magic singles and sealed product. So if you're like me and when you're shopping for a big expensive set like Modern Horizons 3, I'm picking up 5 singles of this and 4 of that and 6 of these. And I like that I can buy a ton of them in one place and get them shipped to me in one simple, safe package. And they'll give me a little token and a packing peanut and a plastic box to boot.
That's underrated is they package so much stuff up that you know it's going to get to you in good condition. Like they're professionals. They have their processes down. Absolutely.
You can always trust that the cards that you order, which are probably expensive from this set, are going to arrive on your doorstep in the condition you ordered them in. Again, cardkingdom.com/command.
And then, of course, once you get all of that stuff, speaking of cards that are expensive, you want to protect them. You want to make sure they don't get damaged once you have them in your hand. And the best way to do that is to use the game accessories brand that we trust our own collections to here at the Command Zone. That is ultrapro.com/command. They make really, really good stuff to protect your game pieces, but also they make awesome looking stuff. And we wanted to talk about one of their new product lines, which is called Mana 8.
It's sweet.
It's really sharp. Yeah, it's these white products with the mana symbols, each of the mana symbols on them. It's like this really stark, like modern looking, very cool. Like you see it and you're like, what is that? Yeah. So there's deck boxes, sleeves. There's the whole like accessories, accoutrement, everything you would need in this product line. And if you have like we're talking Rachel. If you have a mono white deck
or a mono blue deck
or a mono red deck, if you're Jimmy, just decking it all out in the same Mana 8 stuff is going to look really, really sweet.
It's really cool. The playmats in particular are like white with the symbol in it. I think they're really cool for if you're going to a con or something, you're going to have people sign it. If you're going to have artists draw around it, pick your favorite color and decorate it as you please. Maybe you're an artist. Go nuts. Plus, the sleeves are Apex sleeves, which are amazing. If you haven't used Apex sleeves yet, they shuffle really, really, really well. They feel beautiful and the art's really clean on them. So check out.
You notice it from like across the room. If there's like we play in big groups here at the Command Zone, and like if you look across the room, the white will just stand out. It's like, what is that? Like, yeah, it's really, really cool. So yeah, ultrapro.com/command. And of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/command. You get all kinds of perks like watching game nights and extra turns earlier than the general public and ad free. Also, you can talk with Rachel, myself, Jimmy, our whole team on Discord. If you'd like to join our community and support our content directly, again, patreon.com/command zone.
Yeah. Plus, we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode. And this one is dedicated
to
Lydia Johnson.
Lydia Johnson. I'm supposed to say it at the same time as Rachel, but your name was hidden behind my microphone, so it took a second. But you still rock.
You still rock. At 2 different times you rock.
Twice as much. Before we get into the main topic, I do want to call out also, the Command Zone is hiring. If you are interested in a gig here, there is a job posting for a production assistant, which is an entry-level job. You just go down in the show notes. There will be a link to that job post. So we would love to have somebody cool join our team. If you think that's you, please apply.
Okay, let's get into it because we have a lot of cards talking about. We are going to be talking about all of the cards that we think are worth having a discussion about from Modern Horizons 3. These are, of course, the more general cards, the ones that we think will go in the most decks or you'll play against it the most. Like we said, there's a lot of new niche strategies that are coming out. There's specific energy cards. There's specific Eldrazi cards. We're not necessarily going to talk about the ones that are very good for a certain archetype because they don't apply to the general populace. So if you're building that, check out all the new energy cards. There's some really sweet ones.
Yeah, you don't need us to be like, oh, put the zombie card in your zombie deck. Yeah. I do like this episode, and I always like doing it because these are the cards that you'll tend to pop up no matter what type of deck you're playing. It's just like, oh, these sort of generally good cards from, whatever the last couple of sets are, you're likely to see them, and it's good. I try to know as many cards as I can that are going to play. This day and age, it's hard to know them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are also the cards that you remember about the set. I find that you're like, oh yeah, that card that set had this. Oh man. Okay, MDFCs. I want to say before we move on, there's a ton of new MDFCs, 20 to be exact. There's spells on the front, lands on the back. They're really great for Commander. We're not going to cover them in this episode. We're going to have another episode dedicated to just talking about those cards and what that means for your deck.
It means you can run more lands, which is great.
All right. This first chunk of cards I wanted to mention because they're great.
Speaking of great.
But they're not that exciting to talk about. So we just want to say them out loud so you guys know that they exist, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, cool thing I think about sets like this, the powerful sets, the Modern Horizons, the Commander Masters, where they're designing cards for, to go directly into formats that aren't standard, so they can their power level can be higher, is that it gives, we call out the specific cards that, seem like they're going to be staples or cards you're likely to see, but there's a whole slew of cards that from sets like this that are like powerful enough to play in Commander as a removal spell that's just in your deck if you don't necessarily have, a million Path to Exiles or whatever the quote-unquote best thing is. There's always a lot. And so it's cool. We're going to lift down some cards that kind of fit in those slots that can be interchangeable with some of the other good, efficient ones that exist now, and maybe are even a little better or a little worse, but there's just not, we don't have to sit there and really get into the weeds about like, is this the second or fifth best removal spell? It is a good removal spell that could be in your suite of removal spells or whatever.
This first one, I think, is a good example. This is a Cursed Marauder. It's 1 and a black for a zombie warrior. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature.
Well, this just is better than what's out there.
This just is better than all of them.
Yeah.
But, like, there's nothing more to say. It just costs 1 more. It only hits non-token permanents. This is the most... 1 less, excuse me. It costs 1 less. It only, it makes them sacrifice non-token permanents.
Yeah.
Or non-token creatures, excuse me.
Yeah, it just kind of is. I guess it's not strictly better, but it just kind of is better than the Plague Crafters and the Merciless Executioners of the world, right?
Yeah, Fleshbag Marauders.
Yep.
It's just 1 cheaper than all of those things that we're used to, and it's good. If you have those in your deck, you're probably upgrading to this.
Yeah, you're either upgrading or also including this as a 4th piece of redundancy, or you're bumping off one of those and keeping 3, but this is one of the 3 now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good card. As soon as I saw it, I was like, wait, what? And I reread it, like, where's the...
Nope.
Where's the downside for me not paying 1 more mana? Yeah.
It's even better. It only hits non-tokens.
Yeah, it's good. The next one is Collective Resistance. This is 1 and a green for an instant. It has Escalate for a green. So you can pay the Escalate cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. So choose 1 or more, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, Target creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So for a grand total of 4 mana, you could do all of these. 3 mana, you get to do 2, and then at the base cost of 2 mana, you get to do any one of those things.
Those are all great things.
Yeah.
I think being able to, it's also super efficient. Like it's 1 and a green to just kill a problem thing. So it's just better than naturalize right away. And then it has that automatic flexibility to it that you can protect a thing with it. So if you have one specific commander that you're like, I'm constantly spending Snakeskin Veils to protect this thing, this is a great upgrade to one of those more narrow protection spells and give it a removal spell as well.
Yeah, I like modal spells that have sort of 2 wide qualities because then you're just, your scenarios where it's good is kind of doubled. Naturalize is only 1 mana though, right? So it's not...
No, that's Nature's Claim.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Naturalize is 2. It shows you what I run. Yeah, so it should just replace Naturalize basically, right?
Yeah. I
Because you just get the upside, no downside.
I would also run this over like Crimson Grips. I would run like I don't think the split second is as big that depends. Is the split second...
Have you ever seen an Omniscience?
I mean, but is that a bigger upside for you than giving hexproof? And I think that depends on what your meta is. That depends on what commander you're playing. If you have something that you know you're going to be the archenemy and not necessarily be the Mr. Interactive player, then this is a much better
and indestructible, so it saves you from those board wipes too. Like that is a pretty big game.
And hexproof, right? And both. So it does it all. Anyway, this card's great.
Yeah, very good. All right, next. Another card that's great.
I love this card. It's Ghostfire Slice. 2 and a red for an instant with Devoid. So it's technically colorless, I guess. This spell costs 2 less to cast if an opponent controls a multicolored permanent commander. Ghostfire Slice deals 4 damage to any target.
So only one of your opponents has to have a multicolored permanent, but then you can target something from one of your other opponents. So there just has to be a multicolored permanent on an opponent's board.
That seems like a very low bar to clear in Commander.
It feels like that's almost always going to be the case.
So this is a single red for a lightning bolt that deals 4 damage. It can go face, it can hit creatures, it can hit just about anything that you want. I looked at the top 50 commanders in the last 2 years. 33 of them will reliably die to 4 damage.
33 out of 50? Pretty good.
Pretty good.
I already started running Lightning Bolt just because you need earlier interaction and also... with a lot of early stuff going on, 3 damage just tends to matter more. So just now we'll upgrade that to 4 for basically the same cost. This card seems great.
Worth noting for Devoid spells, it's still the color identity of the pip. It's a colorless spell, but it's still a red color identity.
Yeah, Blue Elemental Blast won't counter it, but it can still only go in decks that have red color identity because Commander color identity is different than the color of the card. Look it up if you're more interested because we got to move on.
Yeah, keep moving.
All right, the next card is Marionette Apprentice. 1 and a black for a 1/2 human artificer has Fabricate 1. So when this creature enters, you can either put a 1/1 counter on it or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. And then it says whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life.
This card's cracked.
Pretty good.
It's Zulaport Cutthroat that comes in with a body that doesn't gain life.
Right.
And also triggers on artifacts.
Good.
It's going to go in all your treasure decks. It's going to go in all your clue decks. It's going to go in most of your aristocrat decks. It's just that kind of card.
Yep. Yeah, it's very good. It's just another piece, and it's a very efficient piece. It's arguably more efficient than even what's there now. So it reminds me of the Accursed Marauder in that, like, if you're already doing that strategy, this is either going to bump something out or be a third or a fourth thing that's doing what your other 2 or 3 cards are already doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's uncontroversially so.
Yeah.
It just is.
It does good. All right.
This next one is Static Prison. This is a single white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Static Prison leaves the battlefield. Whoa. You get energy. So you get 2 energy counters. And then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, sacrifice Static Prison unless you pay energy. So this is single mana to remove any non-land permanent for 3 full turn rotations.
Yeah. At least. I mean, because if you get more energy some other way.
Yeah. But you proliferate in any way.
If this is the only card that has an energy pip in your entire deck, it's still going to get rid of something for 3 turns. Yeah. I knew you'd like this, and we both like it because we're both proponents of even like bounce spells.
Yeah. I love Delay. This reminds me of Delay.
So often just getting rid of something even for a singular turn, it feels like the same as removing it. This is 3 turns. That's basically the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a white permanent that costs 1, so very recurable.
Yep.
So, yeah, just don't pay it. Let it go away. Get it back with your Safine's Reclamation or whatever. Go nuts.
Yeah.
It's just very efficient.
It's just very good, and you should definitely run this in your decks.
Yeah, because, the flexibility, too. It's like, there's already Path and Swords, but...
This hits any non-land permanent.
Kind of nuts for 1 mana.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's only 1 mana.
Yeah, this is in every white deck sort of card.
I agree.
Okay, the next one and the last one on our list of sort of generically powerful stuff that we're not going to spend long on is Planar Genesis. It's green and blue for an instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put a card from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
This card's sweet. It's an impulse that can ramp you early, and late it can draw you an important card. I think it's more flexible than a Rampant Growth. And if you're running 37, 38 lands, you're going to hit a land 85% of the time. So I think this is reliably ramp, and then in the late game, it's more flexible and can draw you a more relevant card.
Yeah, Growth Spiral is the card that immediately comes to mind because it's in the same color palette and color pie.
Color palette, too.
Yeah, and it's... And it does have a similar like effect. I would be interested. Do you think you run this over Growth Spiral?
I think so.
Interesting. There's definitely some different upsides there. It's hard to get a spell and drop a land from hand. You can only get one or the other kind of with this one.
I don't know. I think I put it in decks that have Growth Spiral. I think I'd run this over Rampant Growth for sure.
Interesting.
Because it can get any land. And in the late game, when you draw a Rampant Growth, you're like, well, this is nothing. And this is something. It gives you a ton of selection. You look at the top 4 cards.
I mean, Growth Spiral, we've all been in the situation where you don't have a land in hand and you're really hoping to draw one off it and you don't get one.
You don't. This hits.
That sucks. But then we've all been in the situation with Growth Spiral where you already have a land in hand and you draw the spell and you drop the land from hand. And this is not as good in that situation, maybe. Although I suppose because you don't get a land into play if you choose a spell.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't be like, I've got 3 lands in hand. I'd like to shoot one into play and draw a card. You can't do those 2 things with this card. So I don't really know how to evaluate that, but there is a difference, obviously.
It's definitely different. I think this is worth looking at if you're in that kind of deck. It's 2 mana ramp that scales well with the late game.
Interesting. All right. Now we're going to go into the cards that we will talk a little bit longer about.
Yeah, we love to talk longer about cards.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but thousands of hours and, almost a decade later, still talking about cards.
And I'm obsessed with this card. It's Amphibian Downpour. 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura with flash and storm. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1.
So, yeah, this is interesting because it creates a bunch of aura enchantments that go onto your opponent's stuff and turn them into... We've seen similar things where it turns them on to 2/2s or whatever, but those are not enchantments that go on to a thing. And this takes away all abilities and there's a 1/1, which is a little different too.
This is like a super frogify, basically. And I think most of these effects are like it turns them all into 1/1 frogs until end of turn. This is, it's an aura that stays on it, and it makes a ton of auras in the process. I think the deck that's going to play this the most is an Enchantress deck.
Yeah, that has to be.
Because it's extremely good with Constellation.
So good. Yeah, or any of these enter the battlefield Enchantress things where it's like, even if you only get like 3 or 4 of these, it's often like draw 6 cards, have a bunch of other effects happen, trigger my Doomwake Giant, good night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, with Doomwake Giant, you turn them on to frogs and they die immediately, and you're like, get out of here.
And the things you didn't hit die. Yeah. You just hit the big stuff and the little stuff dies.
Yeah, and I think this fits really well into those shells because Enchantress tends to have a really low curve and be like, I cast this, I draw 2 cards. I cast this, I draw 2 cards. I cast this, I draw 2 cards. I cast Amphibian Downpour, I make that a 1/1, and I draw 4 cards.
Yeah, you're not really a Storm deck where you're going to get this count up to 20, but 4 is good because you're going to basically kill the important stuff, draw a bajillion cards. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and you can use your opponent's Storm on their turn because it has flash.
Now, let me ask you, do you think this can be played outside of enchantment decks, or is it pretty much like you need to have the upside of sort of like Constellation type triggers in order to make this playable?
I think you can. I do think you want to be some sort of permanent based thing, like if you're pairing it with Wight and you need like graveyard recursion type of stuff. If you bring it back from the battlefield, it doesn't have a storm trigger, of course. If you use like a Sun Titan or something, it doesn't have storm. But
if
there
you
has
got storm
to be
the
a
first
reason.
time and now you're sort of removing a thing a second time, you could, it's like...
It has incidental value there. Or an aura deck, certainly, where it has synergy with other stuff going on in the deck. But I'm not sure I would just throw this in like a blue control deck.
I agree. All right, the next one.
It's certainly not a storm card.
The next one is a land, and we're going to see a decent amount of lands this episode, which is interesting.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's called Arena of Glory. It is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. You can tap to add red. You can also pay red, tap it, and exert Arena of Glory. So the land gets tired. And
The
when
arena gets tired.
Yeah. It needs to be cleaned, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the local theater. Yeah, you got to give it a little time to go in there and clean up the popcorn. So when you tap it and exert it and pay red, you add red to your mana pool, and then if that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. Now remember, an exerted permanent won't untap during your next untap step. So you can only do this sort of every other turn. And it does kind of cost you 2 red to get the 2 red back to then, right? Because it would have normally tapped for a red.
Yeah. It also doesn't cost you any red, which is nice. So like this kind of effect, I think of like Flamekin Village is like red, tap this. So it's costing you 2 mana to give something haste.
Yep.
Where this is 2 mana right now. You're not down any mana. You can cast your commander with haste on curve, and it'll cost you mana next turn. But you've only exerted 1 land.
Yeah, and because it can come in untapped if you have a mountain and you need the red anyway to activate it. Not that all red comes from mountains, but yeah, this is the type of card that you can play. You can sandbag into your hand, play out in an unexpected moment. Maybe the turn you were going to cast your commander, and they're thinking, all right, it's an attack trigger, but they don't have haste on board, so probably they're not getting that trigger. They're just going to cast it, and I'll have a second. A lot of times people will not hold up their removal spell in that instance. They'll tap out to advance their board, thinking, I'm going to untap and either remove it if that's what she does, or be ready to remove it.
Right.
And you're like, never mind, Arena of Glory. I have a mountain, untapped, cast my commander or whatever. It has haste, go, attack, get trigger. And they're like, crap. Yeah, it's Winota.
It puts
I
you a
was
turn
thinking
ahead.
I had a second.
Yeah.
I don't. We're dead or whatever. No, maybe not dead, but like that is a big advantage I didn't think they were going to get.
Yeah, something cool about this land too is it makes 2 red mana, so you could spend 1 red on one creature and 1 red on another and give
really
2
cool.
creatures haste.
That's quite cool.
Which is fairly clever and makes the exert so worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can like use this after a board wipe and be the first to rebuild and attacking right away, that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Hall of the Bandit Lord, and I think this is just quite a bit better.
I agree.
So that's a pretty good sign. I mean, it probably just goes in most red decks, again, because the downside is so low. If you never decide to do this, it probably didn't even cost you anything. It just played as a mountain for, probably. As long as you've got, 10 to 12 lands that are designated mountain in your deck. And it doesn't say basic mountain, right? So your Triumphs count, your Shocklands count. So it seems very easy for this to be 0 cost to your deck.
Yeah. But it's definitely worth including if you have an activated ability or an attack trigger, or if you're in Ishin and everything's an attack trigger.
Yeah, I just think it's worth including in any. If you've got red, why not? There's going to be times where you wish you had haste, and this can give it to you. And if you never wish that in a game, it costs you nothing.
Yeah.
It gives you even better when you've got the Wilderness Reclamations and the Seedborn Muses and stuff to untap it too, because then you can just exert willy-nilly and not really care. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I had an issue with Hall of the Bandit Lord recently where I was reducing the casting cost of my commander to the point where I didn't have any colorless mana to spend the mana on.
I can't use
so
this.
I couldn't give it haste because I didn't have any
That's
colorless
what we call
mana.
high-class problems.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, well, I didn't think about that when I put Hall of Bandit Lord in the deck.
I ran into a similar situation on an Extra Turns episode that won't have aired yet, but when it gets there, maybe you'll know this is what I'm talking about, where I had to sack one of my own permanents so that I could pay mana for a spell.
You're like, cool, thank you.
I need to pay mana for the spell. So I had to sack one of my cost reducers.
Commander's so weird.
Yeah, weird.
This next one is a doozy. It is Chthonian Nightmare. 1 and a black for an enchantment. When Chthonian Nightmare enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. Pay X energy, sacrifice a creature, and return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand. Return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. Boy, does this sound familiar.
Yeah.
Where have I heard this before?
So the banned card Recurring Nightmare.
Yeah, it's on the ban list.
Yeah, and they were like, you know what we should combine this banned card with? This famously very fair mechanic called energy. There'll probably be no problems when those two meet up. Yeah, this card is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, there's some very important differences between Recurring Nightmare and Chthonian Nightmare.
Sure.
There's an ETB.
Yep.
So you can respond to the ETB to blow up the Nightmare.
Yeah.
Whereas Recurring Nightmare, Recurring Nightmare, when it hit the battlefield, you had no moment where you could remove it before they could activate it. So there's that.
Yep.
And then it has this cap-ish of energy counters. But
the thing is, it bounces itself back to your hand. So when you replay it, you just get whatever the excess was. Yeah. And that's what I think is like makes this a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
Because you almost certainly won't want this sitting there. So you're going to, you can use this a couple of turns in a row just to gain energy. Okay, I do this, I get the little thing back, I bounce it to my hand, I sack it, and I'm just gathering energy to do the big thing later. And then also, there's tons of just little stuff already that you're just going to want to do this with. Like, Dockside is the first thing everybody thinks of. And there's immediate infinite with Dockside. Yeah. Because it gives you the mana to recast the Dockside. This also gives you the way to sack it to give it back, and it's a 2 CMC thing, so you already end up with 1 extra energy. So this actually says, you know, get infinite mana and then get all the rest of your stuff. Whatever, you know.
As long as you have another cheap thing to like keep sacking and looping with Dockside, which is not that hard. It's just
do you want infinite mana and infinite energy? Do you want both of those things to be infinite?
I mean, that
seems fine.
2-card combo.
Yeah.
This,
I mean, that's obviously Dockside is the problem there, but the fact that like
but like Recurring Nightmare was banned long before Dockside.
True.
Like the problem with Recurring Nightmare is that you just once you have Recurring Nightmare, you're like, okay, cast Recurring Nightmare, bounce Recurring Nightmare, cast Recurring Nightmare, bounce Recurring Nightmare.
And I feel like you're gonna do the same thing here.
Absolutely, and I feel like you're almost encouraged to because of the energy cap. You really want to do it multiple times,
and of course, get your triggers, and you'll be gathering up energy. And it's gonna feel so good but then And Commander's faster and faster. Reanimating a 3-drop is fine. Professional Facebreaker is a 3-drop. Like, there's powerful Douthie Voidwalker. Most of your cards are 3s or 2s, right? Like, most of your cards, probably over half of them. So it's like, oh, do you want to be able to reanimate half of your cards with this? Yeah, it's nuts. It's very good. I don't think it's probably ban-worthy, but... Yeah, that's the big question is should this be on the ban list? I mean, there's no way it should be on the ban list now. Definitely, we have to let it live for a little while. Yeah, we can't ban it immediately. And I don't want to spoil anything, so we're going to talk about a lot of cards this episode. And there are a few that are very, very powerful, and also people are already calling to be banned. And I think most of the time, cards don't need to be banned. So I'm going to say no. But like, is this of a power level where I think it's nuts that someday we might say that should be banned? No, this is in that. Right? Don't you think? Yeah, no, I wanted to read the reasoning that they put on the website for why Recurring Nightmare is banned. Yeah. And it says, outside of counter magic, it's nearly impossible to stop this card from doing its thing once it gets going, because returning to its owner's hand is part of the activated ability. So that is actually fixed because of the Chthonian Nightmare ETB. It says, if your graveyard is sufficiently stocked, it's entirely possible that once you draw Recurring Nightmare, it's the only spell you want to cast for the rest of the game. And that is certainly not fixed. I mean, I could absolutely see having this in your deck and just being like, well, now we're playing the Chthonian Nightmare game. Sure. I don't know that I agree with the rules committee that they should be legislating or like if somebody likes that, that's totally fine. Yeah. Whatever. If I know people that build decks around like certain cards that they love, and the whole goal is to like play those cards. And if you love this, that part of it is just like whatever you like. Like, do you like pistachio ice cream or strawberry ice cream? I don't care. That's not up to me. But from a power level standpoint, Recurring Nightmare was very hard to deal with. Yeah. This is a little easier to deal with, but I think we'll still like it's the type of card that like, and it's only at a 2 mana price point. Yeah, it's cheaper. That it's going to end a lot of games in board states that not a lot of other cards feel like they were going to end it in. So that's what I would watch. But again, I don't think it should be banned. Do you? Yeah. No, not yet. I mean, it's definitely a card that I looked at and was like, this is not that different from Recurring Nightmare. Yeah. That being said, I've always wanted to play Recurring Nightmare. Yeah. Recurring Nightmare is really cool. It's so fun to play. I think this card is going to be sweet, and it's honestly the first card I want to put in a deck because I have no idea what it's going to feel like. It could feel completely different. It's a recurable Unearth, which doesn't sound that good, but then you look at it and you're like, it's better though. It's really good. Yeah, it's really good. It has this... Part of the reason is like, why does it have to sack the creature in as part of it? It's like Skull Clamp where they thought that was a downside. No, that's an upside. It has the sack effect on it. If at least you had to figure out how to get the creature dead as part of another step you have to take, but no, Yeah. So
Yeah, it just gives you the loop all in one piece.
Yeah. It's very powerful, and it's, you're going to do cool stuff with it. So I like that part of it. And
Stitcher Supplier, mill 3,
So
sacrifice
good.
Stitcher Supplier, mill 3, reanimate
What I get,
this. It's play this again, bring back Stitcher Supplier. It'll be fun.
yeah. And just keep doing that till I find Dockside. Then
This next one is awesome.
oh, this is a cool card. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Dreamtide Whale. 2 and a blue for a 7/5 whale. Has Vanishing 2. And that means this creature enters the battlefield with 2 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter from it. When the last time counter is removed, you sacrifice it. So then it says, whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, proliferate. So obviously you can proliferate the vanishing counters, the time counters, and keep this thing from killing itself. But also proliferation just, says do stuff with all the counters that exist out there, not just the whales counters. Yeah. if Ledger Shredder taught me anything, it's that a lot of second spells get cast.
Yeah, I don't think this proliferates is even a question. I think vanishing is sort of a detail on this.
Doesn't matter at all. This will never die.
It will never die.
Not naturally to its counters, I mean.
Yeah. It's even if nobody plays 2 spells in the first rotation.
You do.
You pay 2 spells. It's 3 mana.
matter.
Like, you keep it.
Yeah, then we're good till next turn. I hope you can keep playing only 1 spell per turn for the entire game.
Yeah.
Even if you do, I keep this thing alive.
Yeah. We talked about how many turns it took for Static Prison to go away. This thing is just immediately a problem. Also, it's a 7/5.
Yeah, it's a 7/5 for 3 mana.
Huge.
That's a very Rachel
What?
card. I didn't even think about
Why
the
is it that big? It doesn't have to be that big.
That's a really good point, actually. You play this on 3 as a setup card that's just bashing in.
That just beats the living daylights
true.
in a blue deck.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the power and toughness, but that is big. Yeah, we've all... Every time Ledger Shredder comes down, it's like a 7/9 within like a turn and a half, 2 turns.
Yeah.
So you just know this is just in that mold. This card's very good.
It's great. And I mean, it's not as explosive as like a lot of proliferate engines that we talk about. Like Flux Channeler, I think, is bigger. Even an Inexorable Tide is one that people really like to play. That's the 5 mana enchantment.
This is better than an Inexorable Tide.
But yeah, this is so much cheaper and you don't have to do anything.
Nope. That's what I love about it.
It just happens.
They do it for you.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They have to keep up with each other, A.
Yeah.
And their decks are all built with 2s and 3 drops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so is yours. Except for
exactly.
yours is a 7/5. And I keep...
I love how I literally don't even look at that corner, and she's like, look at that. It's true, though.
When you play a 4 mana 4/4 and your opponent is a 3 mana 7/5 in blue, you're going to feel pretty bad. I keep bringing this up, but you can reanimate with Unearth. You can bring it back with the Sun Titan. 3 mana is a very important mana value to hit. So there's a lot to love about Dreamtide Whale, including the art.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good in like a Super Friends deck, too, because at 7/5, it blocks really well. And then you're just getting your loyalty counters.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
Brick Wall is Whale. Brick Whale.
Brick Whale.
She's a brick.
Whale. Who says Rachel doesn't sing?
You can bring this back with Chthonian Nightmare over and over again. How fun.
And then proliferate the energy counters.
Ooh, a combo. Speaking of brick whales, the next one is Emrakul, the world anew. Brand new Emrakul. She's 12 mana. She's a 12/12. It says, when you cast this spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls.
Okay.
Flying, protection from spells and from permanents that were cast this turn.
Interesting.
Sure. When Emrakul, the world anew, leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control. Ooh, bit of a spicy downside. And then it has madness. She's a little mad from being locked in the moon. That is fair. And it's madness, pay 6 colorless. So if you discard
Not 6 and a colorless.
No. Colorless, 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 colorless.
Wow.
I think that was 6.
Yeah, I lost count. Yeah, I trust you.
I think it was 6.
That's a lot of diamond mana.
Yeah, that's bananas. And you have to figure out how to discard it? That seems hard. I'd rather play 12 anything than 6 colorless.
Yeah, so that mana cost means that it doesn't matter outside of a deck that's like pretty dedicated to colorless. There's how many colorless things like rocks, lands, whatever, things that tap for colorless, do you think you need to have to even consider the mana cost like a possibility for you?
The 6 colorless?
Yeah. Do you need 15 sources of colorless?
Like, you're not going to run a green spell in anything that isn't mono green.
Yeah. So you need to be a colorless deck.
I think
otherwise
you're
the
colorless.
Otherwise, the madness means nothing to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I think, too.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, like, I can't imagine putting the, like, 5/5, the 5-mana 10/10 dinosaur in, like, a green-red deck.
Okay, but... So we're imagining we're casting it for 12. There's no other cost discount, built in.
Built-in.
How good is this for 12 mana? Steal all of one opponent's things.
So that's the interesting thing about
this. It's just their creatures, actually.
It's just their, it's just their creatures. And then if you lose Emrakul somehow...
It kills those creatures and
all of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like a pretty significant downside. I think this reads rude, but it isn't that powerful. I think in the moment, if you figure out how to cast a 12 mana thing, you really want it to be game ending. And this sort of just makes you the big bad and takes somebody out of a game temporarily. The other two players are going to be like, well, let's rumble now. And you better hope that the board you stole is big enough to handle them.
Well, they just start concocting a scenario to kill Emrakul somehow.
Yeah,
It's a little tough because you can't use spells.
Yeah.
And if you use a board wipe, all their creatures are going to die anyway, so that doesn't matter as much. You can't use, triggered abilities of like aura enchantment stuff, like, right? But,
yeah.
So what do you need? Like a Goblin sharpshooter with a basilisk collar or, 12 squirrels? But
12 squirrels work. It's interesting. A Blasphemous Act does not kill this because it's a spell on the stack that does damage. It's protection from spells. So there's like weird, like damage board wipes aren't going to kill this.
Interesting.
If you like flash an Evenser, that can't bounce this. But if you reanimate Evenser or if you blink Evenser,
oh, interesting,
and it wasn't cast, like
it has to be cast this turn.
Yes. So you can. Like, if you have a Teferi Time Raveler from last turn,
Planeswalkers can do it
now.
As long as you didn't play them this turn, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so
it's hard, though.
It's not easy to remove this.
But if they figure out, they're going to try and figure out a way, and that just means that as soon as if they get that done, you're pretty much done, right?
Yeah.
Because you lose this, all the creatures, plus the creatures of the person you stole. So the two players that were left that didn't...
way ahead.
And they're very incentivized to get rid of Emrakul because it basically destroys two players, all their creatures. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think this card is... I like the way that they designed the ULTRA'S this time around because...
Except for one of them.
I actually don't mind that one, but we'll talk about it later. Emrakul and like Kozilek and stuff that they printed for MH3, they aren't that good if you don't cast them.
Right.
Like the other ones, if you sneak attack or if you get them into play somehow, like a Shallow Grave, they're very powerful because they have very powerful attack triggers. But this...
Well, the Annihilator ones, but the last round ones still have
They have cast triggers, but I mean, they were playable bodies to just reanimate without the cast triggers.
Sure.
This is just a 12/12 with flying and protection and a downside. Yeah. Which it isn't like, it's just better if you can cast it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think this is totally fine. It doesn't scare me at all. It's not the kind of card you look at and be like, well, that's broken. It's kind of like a kind of card where you're like, I don't even know if I want to play this.
Yeah, I mean, I only think you're looking at it if you can cast it for free. If this is, like, we're talking about our Animar decks that reduce colorless cost. Rakdos, Lord of Riots is my deck. I will look at it for Rakdos. Belby, that makes a ton of colorless mana. Those are the kind of decks.
Or Eldrazi creature type decks that have, like, Eye of Zavugan and stuff that you're going to reduce it enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, because even if you can get this down for 7 or something, it becomes very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. The next one is called Fanatic of Rhonas.
Oh, I love this card.
It is 1 and a green. Yeah, this is a good card. For a 1/4 Snake Druid. It's a mana dork. You can tap it to add green, but it has Ferocious. So you can tap it to add green, so 4 green. But it says activate only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. And then it has Eternalize for 2 green. And that means you exile this card from your graveyard and you create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie Snake Druid with no mana cost. You can only Eternalize as a sorcery. Now, this is a 1/4 at its base. If you Eternalize it, obviously it is a 4-power creature, so it will meet its own requirement and tap for 4. But if you just have a commander that's like, got 4 power, then this taps for 1 to get it out early and then taps for 4 from then on out.
Yeah, they're combining Ferocious and Eternalize. They think they're so cute.
It's cute. But I mean, it seems fair. Like, it's got to die. You pay 4 mana, now it taps for 4. That's way more fair than the scenario where you paid 2 for this, and then on turn 3, you cast your 4-drop commander with 4 power, and then on turn 4, it taps for 4.
I keep thinking about Goreclaw.
Oh, yeah.
Because you play this on 2, you play Goreclaw on 3, you untap, this taps for 4, she reduces the cost of it. You can cost a 10 mana permanent creature.
Boom.
On turn 4.
Boom. Yeah, that's good. Ferocious stuff works good with Goreclaw. So,
yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of Bloomtender is the card I think of because this is the one that has a very similar play pattern where it taps for 1 when you cast it, and then pretty quickly after that, it taps for usually like 3.
Yeah.
But, in a 5-color deck, it taps for 5. And Bloomtender is a card that if you're in a 3-mana deck that has green and you own a Bloomtender, it probably should go in that deck.
Yeah.
The problem for most of us, myself included, is you only got a couple Bloomtenders in your repertoire. Well, now you got Fanatic of Rhonas too.
Yeah, it's a snake now.
Do you think
and
you
can
could
cast it from the graveyard.
Yeah. Do you think you could play this? Because I think this is a shoe-in if your commander has 4 power or more.
Yes.
Almost certainly this is going to be a good card to play unless
or you have Dreamtide Whale.
Yeah. But that's one card in your 99,
I know,
right?
kidding.
Yeah. So my question is like, where's the cutoff when this becomes like less good than your other mana dorks, where maybe you would slot in something else instead? Is it when your commander is 3 power or less and you've only got, like, how many 4-power creatures do I have to have in my deck if my commander's not 4 power before I would run this? Is it 15? Is it 20? Like, I think at 5 to 6 creatures at 4 power and my commander doesn't have 4 power, I can't really run this.
Yeah, I'm not. I think I like 2 mana dorks in 4 CMC commanders.
Yep.
Is the main thing. If it's a 3 mana value commander, I'm running 1 mana dorks.
Yeah.
So I think that it already has to be 4 or 5 mana value commander.
I mean, I would still run this if my 3-drop commander
probably
it has 4 power.
Yeah. But it has to be better than a lot of really powerful 2 mana dorks, including Bloomtender, including like the one that exiles, the little that eats graveyards incidentally, including even the raccoon that bounces itself to hand.
Right.
There's a lot of really
specialized
strong
one like Sanctum Weavers and stuff like that.
Exactly.
They're like, well, you're enchantments, use this one.
Right. So I think I would only be looking at it if I had a 4-power commander, or I mean 20 creatures with power 4 or higher, but that's
What's
a lot.
Well, yeah. What is even the commander that wants 4 power or more creatures that it itself is not 4 power or more?
Yeah, exactly.
They almost always are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good card though.
Very cool. I like it a lot.
All right. What's the next one?
Oh, this is Final Act.
I just want to spoiler alert. This is not the final act of this episode though. We're just in F and we're going to
this
go
is
all the way
Act 1.
alphabetically. Yeah.
We should have ended
I
on
don't want
this.
you to get
You're
your hopes up. We got a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Final Act is 4 black for a sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Destroy all creatures, destroy all planeswalkers, destroy all battles, exile all graveyards, and each opponent loses all counters.
Each opponent?
Each opponent. So this is obviously templated extremely similarly to Farewell, and I think people are really anticipating and comparing it to that. Like, this is pre-ordering at nearly $20.
What?
Yeah. It should be noted, this is in the Graveyard Overdrive precon. This is not in the main set.
This is Farewell. This is not.
Farewell, this is not.
First of all, it doesn't exile.
No.
So it's already like way worse. Even if it did the same things, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
This is not even close to as good as Farewell. In fact, this card's not that good.
I don't think this card's very good at all.
Yeah,
It's destroy all creatures, destroy all planeswalkers are like, I guess, maybe you hit a planeswalker, maybe. But then destroy all battles is nothing. Exile all graveyards is actively bad for the black deck casting the board wipe.
Time, yeah.
If I'm in a black deck and I'm casting the board wipe, I want to be able to reanimate my graveyard.
One of the things I get is I don't care if my stuff dies that much. Yeah.
And then each opponent loses all counters is very bizarre flavor text.
What? What can you remove? Energy and poison? Is that it?
You remove your opponent's poison counters. Good job.
So you don't want to do that. And then, so it's just energy? This is literally just get rid of
experience. Experience counters?
Yeah, that never comes up anymore.
It's been a long time. So the joke is there's a commander in the Eldrazi precon that has experience counters, and then of course there's the energy precon. So this is like to tech against those precons, I guess. But otherwise this is a 6-mana damnation, and I would not run it over most blackboard wipes.
Yeah. I don't like this at all. Why does it say each opponent loses all counters?
It's so you can't remove your own.
Maybe each opponent and I'm trying to template it so you could remove all the counters from like their creatures too.
Sure.
Even then, you wouldn't ever really do that very often.
Remove all creatures from permanents or players and
Opponents.
And opponents.
Yeah. Remove all counters from your opponent's and their creatures.
And their creatures.
Yeah, sure. Anyway.
Yeah, it's weird. And I don't think it's very good. And until battles or planeswalkers take over Commander, maybe they've taken over your meta and this is great. But I don't think this is... Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you see one every once in a while.
If you're really worried about blowing up planeswalkers this much, you should run Blood on the Snow. That card is awesome.
Or just, flyers.
Or flyers. Just pick them off. It's fine.
Just eat them, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you need to buy this card.
$20?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
$20.
It's gonna drop, but like... There was a lot of hype on this when they were like, new farewell. And you're like,
I actively I'm not going to run it. So, yeah, I'll pay $0.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we've got a whole bunch. We're only in F. Like we said, this is not actually the final act. So
F is a big letter for this set, though.
Is it?
Yeah, F is the first letter of the free cycle that we're going to be talking about next.
Oh, yeah, and this cycle is kind of nuts. It's a bunch of... We keep, everybody's like, they should never print spells that cost no mana, and they just keep printing spells that cost no mana.
People love cards that don't cost no mana.
There's a lot of really good ones, too. So, yeah, if that's not enough of a tease, don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back.
All right, I will draw, and Jimmy, I'm going to have to destroy your commander again.
What? No!
Oh, no.
How much is it going to cost next time?
15.
Yikes.
Wow.
15's not so bad.
It's a lot for a 3-mana commander.
But not for a 3-month phone plan.
Oh.
In fact, I just started paying $15 a month for premium wireless with Mint Mobile. I'm saving a ton compared to other overpriced providers with their jaw-dropping bills and unexpected overages. Plus, now I get high-speed data and unlimited talk and text all on the nation's largest 5G network. I even got to keep my old phone, contacts, and number.
Wow, for $15, that's a really good deal.
Exactly.
I gotta sign up too, but first, Josh, I'm going to sword your commander.
What? No, it's gonna cost $8 now. You know what, I scoop. I got work to do.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/command. That's mintmobile.com/command. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/command. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
My name is Sarkin, and hoo boy, my dogs are barking! Yes, that is how I used to introduce myself all the time. My feet were so uncomfortable, they called me Sarkin. Souls aflame! But then I started wearing absurdly comfortable BOMBAS socks. With their honeycomb arch support, anti-blister tabs, and cushioned footbeds, I started to look at socks in a whole new light. See, now that I can't planeswalk, I do a lot of regular walking, and BOMBAS makes it feel like I have little pillows on my feet. They come in a wondrous array of colors and styles. I even got a pair with small fish on them. Ha ha! How absurd! Small fish do not belong on feet. They even make me feel good on the inside, because I know every time I buy socks, tees, or underwear from BOMBAS, they donate a piece of essential clothing to someone facing homelessness. Now walking feels so great, I'm almost reluctant to transform into a dragon. Almost. Dragon mode activate! Ah! Woo! Dragon!
Get comfy this spring and give back with BOMBAS. Head over to bombas.com/CommandZone and use code CommandZone for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/CommandZone and use code CommandZone at checkout. Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about the new cards from Modern Horizons 3, specifically the ones that go into your deck. And without further ado, it's time to get to the big bad cycle of Modern Horizons 3. I feel like they always do a free cycle in Modern Horizons. The first it was the Force ofs, and then they did the Pitch Elementals, and now it's the Flares.
And it's never come back to bite them. They've never accidentally made too powerful of cards that, are too
Force
good.
Of Rage. It's coming. Its time is coming.
Yeah, I would just, put out there, maybe let's just not do free spells anymore. Listen, there's some really powerful stuff in here. Maybe too powerful.
Yeah.
The first one is not one of them, though.
It's fine.
There's one for every color, and they all have sort of the same clause, which is, the first one is green. It's Flare of Cultivation. It's 1 green for a sorcery. And then all of them basically have this clause, but it obviously says a different creature color. You'll get it. You may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So all of them have that clause, but for blue, it's blue, and red, it's red, obviously. Okay. So you get a free effect, but the cost is sacrifice a non-token creature of that color. And this effect is search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. So Flare of Cultivation is cultivate that can be free if you sack a non-token green creature.
Yeah. It's another cultivate.
Yeah.
That costs 1 green.
Hey, yep.
I think this one, the way that I've been thinking about these that makes me like them a lot more, honestly, is I think you're going to cast these for their mana cost a lot.
These or this one?
I think this cycle.
Oh,
Not all of them. There's 2 of them that I think are largely going to be free.
Yeah.
But this one, the floor is cultivate.
Yeah.
If you're interested in Cultivate or Kodama's Reach, this is better than both of those. Like, if you can, 1 green is something that you can pay, which it probably is. You can just put this in the deck instead of that or in addition to that. The biggest issue here, of course, is that we don't run a ton of Cultivates or Kodama's Reaches as much as we used to.
Yeah, I'd say Kodama's Reach and Cultivate are starting because of format speed. Just not that they're not playable, but definitely they were like the most. I think Cultivate 5 years ago was the most played green card, and it's well down the list now. And a lot of it is format speed. And I agree with you too. When you're in green, even if you're in like 3 or 4 colors, usually green is your anchor color for fixing. So you need more green sources than most because you say, well, if I have green, then all my spells are online that find my other colors.
Right.
So green, and 1 isn't that different than 2 and a green, which Cultivate and Kodama's Reach are. So I agree with that. I think if this said you may sacrifice a non-token creature and not green creature, it'd be a lot better because green doesn't really have a lot of like expendable low mana cost creatures like white and blue and some other colors have like ETB, get a card of some value, and now it's black has obviously tons of stuff that's just like meant to die.
Yeah.
Green has less of that. So yeah, I think it's like, you can replace a Cultivate, and sometimes you might do this just to like, I don't even know what you're getting rid of.
It's a mana dork, I think, most of the time.
If you got like an Elvish Visionary or something in your deck, that would be great, that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the most, and like you said, so that leads me to believe, most of the time I'm just playing 3 mana and casting this.
Yeah. So I think this goes in decks that run a lot of mana dorks, and you sacrifice an early Llanowar Elves to just make it slightly more protective ramp. So it doesn't die in board wipes, it doesn't get pinged down. Yeah. But I think you also are leaning on the fixing is a big part of this card. You're not running it just as a ramp piece because you're just turning it like a mana creature into a land, and then you're drawing a land. And that's fine, especially if you're like, I just need to get cards out of my hand. I've got a bunch of extra stuff on the board. I might as well cast this. But I think you're not like powering it out as a free spell.
Under what circumstances would you sack an Elvish Mistress of this? Because you played an Elvish Mistress on turn 1 and you have 3 mana on turn 2, just cast it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could cast it, or you could cast this in a Talisman, or you could cast this in your commander. It's
your commander's a 2-drop, I suppose.
Yeah, because you float the mana from the creature, right? So you use 3 mana, cast your commander, which is 3-drop, and then you sack the tapped creature and you cultivate.
Sure.
Like, that's a perfectly fine start. But I don't think you're necessarily putting it in a deck that doesn't already run one of these 2 spells, Cultivate or Kodama's Reach.
And you just replace one and say sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you get to do it, and so that's great, and most of the time you don't, and that's fine too.
Not very exciting, this one, but this is the worst one of them all. So the rest are better.
Up next is the big one of the cycle. It always is because it's blue. It's Flare of Denial. 1 blue for an instant. You may sacrifice a non-token blue creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. We're all shocked. Counter target spell.
Why? Why do we keep doing this? Nobody likes it.
No.
You've never like opened a door and there was a bunch of people dancing around the room going, yeah, Force of Will's awesome. That doesn't happen. Right? Everyone's like, do you have Force of Will?
Yeah.
Do you have Force of Negation? Like,
there's nothing you can do, right? If they have it, they have it. There's nothing you can do. You just have to play and hope they don't have it.
These are always on the list of cards where it's like, these are too powerful. We probably shouldn't play them in our 7s. Like, you know, it's just, yeah. I don't like it.
I will be honest. When I looked at this the first time, I was like, it's not that good. Because I was like, when would I ever want to counter like a piece and sack one of my things in my blue deck? I have like 6 creatures in that deck. But if you're going to lose the game, you're going to counter that thing. And once I started thinking of this as like...
Or if you're going to win the game.
Or if you're going to win the game, to support that, of course.
Does one of your creatures, is that the one?
But how can I win the game if I don't have my creatures, Josh? There's no way to do that. Can't think of one way.
Yeah. How am I attacking without my creatures?
If I sack him, then they don't die. But I also really like that this is just a cancel, right? The floor of this free spell is so much higher than the floor of all the other free spells, including Force of Will. It's just one blue counter target spell.
Right, that's better
than Fierce Yeah, that's better than Fierce Guardianship. That's better than Force of Will. It's better than Force of Negation, which are all like either negates or they're 5 mana.
Or they're restrictive, yeah.
You just cast a cancel sometimes.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
No.
Yeah, and like you said, sometimes stops the board wipe. All your creatures are going to die. I'd rather lose just one.
Yeah.
Or protects the win. Yeah. Or stops the win. Like, I was going to die. Would I rather just not have my commander on the board? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This card is very, very good.
Very powerful.
And I think it's, it's not quite as good as Fierce Guardianship, but it's comparable. I think it's just another one in the suite, and now there's 4 really good ones.
Yep.
And it was too many with 3, so I don't want a 4th.
Yep.
Just the play patterns of this sucks. It's no good. They're tapped out, but they're not really tapped out. And that's just not really how I think it's generally fun to be in those situations playing on either side. And, I'm the control player, and I tend not to play the free spells because I don't like what it does to play patterns in the game, right? At least you have to use mana to stop stuff. The strategy of that, of like they're tapped out, you're playing around stuff, you're trying to bait things out, that can be fun.
It's also tough when you're playing against it to be like, okay, do they have their commander in play? Is this a non-creature spell? Could they have Force of Will here? Is it that kind of deck? Because sometimes you can tell if there's a Force of Will in this deck.
Yeah.
And this one is like, do they have a blue creature?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, they probably do.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to read this one, and it can counter Crater Hoofs. It can counter lots more that Fierce Guardianship and Force of Negation can't.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful. The floor is incredibly high for a spell like this.
They didn't need to do this. This could have been like counter target creature spell. Something that blue has enough really good stuff.
Yeah,
They're
why
not
can't
hurting.
blue have the bad one for once in the cycle?
Green gets the cultivate one. This one could have just been a kind of crappy, like counter target creature spell. What's wrong with that? That's a card that'll
what
be
if it was just a free bounce?
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it would be fringe playable.
Yeah.
But definitely we wouldn't be complaining about it. So this is the most powerful one, I think. Not the coolest one because it's doing a boring thing, but
there it
big
is.
Surprise.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to happier times in the red one.
Yeah, this one's sweet.
I like it. Flare of Duplication. 1 red for an instant. You may sack a non-token red creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. A free fork.
Yeah. This is awesome.
This is sweet.
There's so many scenarios where I think this is really cool. The first one that I think of is when you're storming off and you cast one big spell and then you sack your final creature and you copy
boom,
it.
Yeah.
Whoa, like that rules.
That's sweet.
That's such a cool moment. And it feels very red. It feels very all in. Feels great.
Yeah.
Or your opponent casts an expropriate. You go, give me that.
I'll take an expropriate as well. Thank you very much. I just think one of the problems with forks, and they're very good. I'm a big proponent of forks in general. They do tricky things too, which is like I use it on my own stuff. Sometimes I use it on yours, but it doesn't stop yours. I just get that also, which is cool. But sometimes I'm just like make a lot of mana, cast something with X in its cost, and then don't use 3 of this mana so that I can make it doubled rather than, whatever. Now this is like, nah, just X is how much mana I have, sack that thing, make a second one. And that's what holds back a lot of forks is like you're trying to reach that efficiency point where doubling the spell, but having to use that extra mana on this copy spell actually makes it more powerful enough to feel like it was worth another card. And this is like you said, go all in.
Yeah,
I'll lose this creature too, and let's just go for it.
The other thing about this is in like a high power meta where there's a lot of counterspells running around, this is also a free counterspell.
Yeah, you copy their counterspell, and then you with your copy of their counterspell, you counter their counter that you copied. Yep. Sweet.
That's awesome.
Yep.
If you're like the defensive red combo player, now you have a way to protect your stuff at instant speed at like for free as well. So this, as much as it looks like an all-in red card, can also be a really sweet defensive spell as well.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of forks. I love Fury Storm. I'm sure people have heard me talk about it a lot. And this will just, do a lot of cool things. And this is the type of spell that, like, is not broken enough. It's restricted enough that, like, making it free doesn't totally break it in half. Also, we don't already have 3 ways to make forks free.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's cool when the first one is, it's like...
How often do you cast this for free, do you think? most of the time?
No. I think it's just an option on the card, but most of the time probably not.
That's what I like about this free cycle is that it does feel like the free is more modal.
Yeah.
Whereas most free cycles are like, you're casting this for free most of the time.
You feel pretty bad if you don't.
Yeah. Like the pitch elementals, sometimes you cast for their full amount, but most of the time you're casting them for free.
Yeah.
And these, it does feel like you could pay 3 mana or you could pay a cost, like a real cost.
Yeah.
And you get the tempo play to make it a little faster.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right, the next one is Wight. That one's yours, Rachel.
It is.
It is very good.
It is very good. It's Flare of Fortitude. 2 white for an instant. It's got you may sacrifice a non-token white creature. Until end of turn, your life total can't change, and your permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible.
Ooh, this is pretty spicy.
This is quite spicy.
Yeah.
There's first of all, it's heroic intervention.
Yep.
Like just that. And then it has the Teferi's protection clause of your life total can't change.
Yep.
It doesn't give you protection from damage, which is an important note. It just means your life total can't change.
Yeah, that's in fringe cases, it matters anyway.
Yeah, I've got them written down. We can go through them in a second. But this is great. This is board protection. That's free. We do have a lot of ways to do this in Wight. And it is getting kind of to the point where yeah, you've got protection. We get it.
Yeah, and I don't mind that point where you're deciding okay, there's 6, 7 of these. Which are the 3 best that I can afford to put in my deck? Because I can't have a deck full of protection. Otherwise, what am I protecting?
Yeah.
But this feels like it fits in because of the mana cost, which will often be free for this effect, I think.
Yeah. I think this one you're definitely paying for free. Because this is an emergency button, right?
And Wight's play pattern is... And the reason it needs protection is the play pattern is often put a bunch of stuff out and then...
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then if it makes it back to my turn, I am board committed, but now I can do stuff. But often people are yeah, I got to pick that board apart. And this gives you a way to be, to still use all your mana to advance your board and have a way to protect it in your hand.
Yeah, I will say we're definitely long in the tooth in terms of board protection. I was looking at the ones that I was going to play in my mono white, good stuff list. And it's sort of this Teferi's Protection, the Convoke one.
Clever Concealment.
Yeah.
Flawless Maneuver.
I'm not running Flawless Maneuver right now because I'm running Galadriel's Dismissal, which I like very much. And is a little bit more, because I have so many board protection spells, I like the ones that are a little bit more flexible than Flawless Maneuver.
Now, where does this fit on that list then?
I think it's in top 3. I do think it makes the list.
Does it kick Galadriel out?
That's the question. I'm looking at it, I'm 4 feels like a lot, and it's certainly not going to kick out.
It's not kicking out
Teferi's Protection, and the other one's free without a cost. So it's either Galadriel's Dismissal or this. And so it's a very difficult decision because I think 4 is too many, even with Galadriel's Dismissal being modal.
It's too bad to have 2 in your hand. The one thing I'll say for this is the life total can't change stuff that the other 2 don't have is pretty big because it'll save you in different scenarios where your board's not in trouble, you are, right? They're big damage spell on the stack, or they got a haste creature out and they air out of nowhere, or just we're down to that part of the game where they're able to sort of swing in and
Crater Hoof.
Yeah, if I live one more turn, or just don't die this turn and give myself a chance. So, whereas the Convoke phase-out one is, that one won't save you, right? In fact, that gets the creatures out of the way so that you will be attacked.
Yeah. I think Clever Concealment's just better in decks where you have specific things to protect, but you're not phasing out your entire board.
Interesting.
And this is better in decks where you're trying to protect your big board state that you've assembled. So maybe token decks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they're both great. I don't know.
It's interesting how you weight that your life total can't change part of it, which is kind of outside of that. So yeah, it's hard to know, and I think that's a good sign that we're in a spot where there's plenty of protection. And the fact that there's enough different ones, I think those are interesting choices. Whereas, do I put another counterspell in my deck that just counterspells is not interesting.
Right. Yeah. Yes. It's worth noting that your life total can't change. You can still die to commander damage. You still take the damage. So you still take commander damage. They still gain life. You still take infect.
So you just die as soon as your turn's over if your commander damage is above 21, right? Because you're just still carrying the commander damage?
You just die as soon as you get hit.
Oh,
you still take the damage. The other weird thing about it is you also can't pay life.
Oh, right.
Because you cannot pay a cost that you cannot...
that you're not allowed to pay.
You're not allowed to pay.
Interesting.
So... Corner cases.
Yeah, a few people called that out on one of the, I think, Extra Turns episode, but it wasn't the case because it wasn't, the commander damage was prevented somehow or something, but I forget. Anyway.
Yeah, well, Teferi's Protection gives you protection from damage.
Oh, right. So you don't actually take the damage.
You don't actually take the damage.
That's what it was.
This one you do.
Yeah, okay. All right. we're not quite done with the cycle. There is one more flare left, one more free spell, and it is, if you've been paying attention, from the color black. It's Flare of Malice, 2 black for an instant. You may sacrifice a non-token black creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. It says, each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control.
Sick. I love this card.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think this is cool. I run Soul Shatter, which is a 3-mana instant version of this that you just have to pay. And it's each opponent sacrifices the highest mana value among creatures, I believe, and planeswalkers. And this one is like sacrifice a thing and you do it for free whenever you want. You're like, I'm in black. I'd like to sacrifice that. Thank you.
Right. So a lot of times you're just looking for a way to sacrifice stuff. So, yeah.
And it's instant speed. It gets the biggest problem off the board. When I was thinking about it, I was just like, it's just a symmetrical edict where everybody sacrifices a creature. You sacrifice the thing that's good for you, and they sacrifice the worst thing for them. And that's pretty good.
I didn't really think about it that way. It's like one instance of Grave Pact, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah, although better because they have to sack their best thing, quote unquote, highest CMC thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. I mean, obviously you had to be careful with the black one because it's the reanimation color and you couldn't make it too powerful because they do like things to die. So yeah, this being a sack outlet, so you're like, I need that Kokusho to die actually. So why don't I also just have you lose all your best thing too?
And I do it for free whenever I want. It's very powerful. You obviously have to have non-token stuff to sack, but that's not so hard in black.
Yeah, very easy. What if you were to rank them from best to worst? How would you do it?
Red and white are the trickiest ones. I'm not sure which one's better. I think blue's the best.
Yeah. And green's the worst?
And green's the worst. I think black is not more powerful than red and white, but it's just really easy to put in a deck and is really good. And I'm hoping it's not super expensive. It feels sort of like the fog one to me, where it's great if you cast it, but you got to find a spot for it. I think the red one's better than the white one.
So red, white, black, or red, black, white?
I think it's blue, red, white, black, green.
Interesting. I have no idea what I would answer that question as because it's hard. Yeah, you're right.
It's hard.
The middle three, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right, this next card's very cool.
This card is so sick.
It's definitely one of my favorite from the set.
Invert Polarity. Blue, red for an instant. Choose target spell, then flip a coin. If you win the flip, gain control of that spell, and you may choose new targets for it. If you lose the flip, counter that spell. So good or good?
Yeah.
Do you want good or good?
That's why I had to read it like 4 times, and I was like, no, you still counter it at the end. And then I was like, that can't be true. Read it again.
Yeah, it's just counter.
So the worst case scenario is I counter it, and the best case scenario is I get it.
You get it. And it's any kind of spell.
There's going to be some wild games where you are hoping that you would lose the flips because it's a board wipe.
It's a board wipe or something. And
it doesn't matter if I
lose.
This is my only shot.
It's very red. I do want to read the flavor text because it's funny. It says, Skreeg! I thought I told you to stop messing with... Oh, that worked. Good job, Skreeg. It's Rouse Eric. So this is a counterspell that just steals stuff off the stack. Anything. Any permanent commander.
We're used to this costing like 6-7 mana to do this kind of thing.
Spelljack is a 6 mana spell.
Yeah. This is extremely powerful, and I just love just having the shot at it.
Yeah.
If 50% of the time I'm going to take the spell.
And the other 50%, it's a counter spell?
Yeah, so I can't lose here. It can just only be extra bad for my opponent. This is it seems nutso to me. No Crux Thumb needed. No, you don't have to have any other coin tossing randomization in your deck at all. I think this is just a good card if you were in blue and red.
The way LSV was talking about this in 1v1, he said he was like, so Tails, I counter your spell. He said, if I lose the flip, I counter your spell. If I win the flip, I win the game.
Yeah, that's what it is, right?
Because you steal their thing.
You just take it. It's the Temple Blah, it's nuts. And you can do this like on their commanders.
And then it's just yours. They don't get an opportunity to put it from the stack into their command zone. It just goes on.
This is going to be one of those ones where I love it, and everyone's like, that's the worst card that's ever existed, and only jerks play it. And I'm like, no one will let me play this card.
It's so fun.
Yeah. No. But you flip a coin, and they're like, nope, not fun.
No. You're the one that played the Omniscience.
Yeah, exactly. You did this to yourself. They're like, listen, if you stop it, that's one thing, but you should take it.
Yeah, this card's awesome. I really like it because it's a counter spell that's not necessary. It's great for haymakers, but it's actually really good for setup pieces.
Like if you counter their mana rock.
If you counter their mana rock, if you counter their Beast Whisperer, now you have a Beast Whisperer.
Yeah. All their setup pieces are good. You're like, oh, by the way, you didn't ramp. You just spent your mana on nothing, and now I have extra mana.
Yeah.
I ramped. This turned into a cultivate for me.
The rules.
Yeah. I love this card.
It's a fractured identity for the stack. But the other two people don't get it.
Exactly. It's better.
It's even better.
Yeah.
I wrote a question down. It was like, is this enough upside to run a 3-mana counterspell? And the answer is yes. I think if you're running counterspells in your blue-red deck, slam this card. It's so fun.
I don't know if people...
It's also backbreaking.
I feel like people are going to think it's fun. Yeah.
They're going to think it's fun and then find out what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that I like it so much tells you that no one's going to think it's fun.
You're lots of fun, Josh.
Yeah. What? Yeah, I flipped a coin.
What?
Yeah. Did you feel a rush?
Look, I was heads I win, tails I win. I flipped a coin.
Yeah. I know. I thought the downside was going to be like it doesn't, or it happens, and like, okay, you can't run that card, or like
they copy it, or
bounce
like
into their hand, maybe.
Yeah.
Nope. All right, the next one is Necrodominance. This is black, in homage to another card. I'm sure you know what it is. Legendary enchantment. Skip your draw step. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay any amount of life. If you do, draw that many cards. Your maximum hand size is 5. Remember, your cleanup step comes after your end step. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So this is a direct homage to Necropotence, a famously OG and broken card.
Yeah, it's fixed.
Yeah. Fixed in interesting ways.
Yeah.
It does actually draw you cards.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. It's a trigger on your end step. It's not like, hey, you get to do this as soon as you have it on the battlefield. That's a big difference too.
There's a couple huge differences. Yeah, that like you said, it doesn't happen when it hits the battlefield. So there is a moment where you go to their end step where they could remove it and this does nothing for you.
Yeah, remember somebody goes to move to their end step. They don't get to change phases without you getting priority at some point. So you can say before your end step, so this is not triggered yet, I naturalize it.
Yeah.
And they won't get to draw any cards off of it. They won't have had a window where this triggered yet.
Where Necropotence comes down and you can pay right away. So you're always going to draw some cards off it.
Yeah, it comes down and they're like, cool, go to remove that. And you're like, okay, pay a life, pay a life, pay a life, pay another life, pay another life. Okay, draw 20, whatever. Now it goes away. Yeah.
Necropotence puts those cards from exile into your hand, all those cards you paid life for. But Necrodominance does draw them. And I do think that's why you would put this into the deck, is that it's a draw trigger versus a put from exile into your hand trigger.
Right. So anything that triggers off of you drawing cards, Necropotence famously doesn't interact with those cards at all, whereas this one does. And the ability to just pay 37 life, draw 37 with certain cards is like pretty broken. Like
certain cards, like Shieldred the Apocalypse.
Shieldred's nuts with this thing.
Yeah.
Because whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life, and whenever your opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So you're like, draw 37, gain 74.
You're like, I'm up 35 life, and I have to mulligan down to my worst 5.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think if you're in a deck that is built around draw triggers, you're building like Quasar or Shieldred or, oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the Grixis guy who plays wheels.
Nekusar.
Nekusar.
Yeah.
I was like, that can't be right. It's Necropotence.
Yeah.
I got stuck on
Necusar, Necropotence. I never even made that connection before. Yeah. Necrodominance, Necusar.
This card goes into those kinds of decks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you have Psychosis Crawler and like another card that triggers off your draws, it's going to be pretty crazy. Yeah, and this is just a very powerful effect and a great way as even just a one-time use to refill your hand. Like you would play a card that said black, draw 7, right? Like that just is a good card. And this is better than that because you could do that again and again and again. And I think the failure most people have is that they don't draw enough cards off these. Draw 10. You don't have to draw 40, but
exile some of them.
Do at least 10. Do over the amount, so you're gonna let some go.
I always play too safe with these kind of cards. That's why I never run them.
It's like Sylvan Library. Just draw the cards. Like this is what they're there for. Yeah, do the thing.
I did see a neat trick that they're talking about with this card is using Born Upon a Wind, which is an instant that says you can cast spells this turn as though they had flash draw card. So you can draw a bunch of cards in your end step, cast Born Upon a Wind, and then chain together a bunch of spells before you have to go to your cleanup and discard down to 5. Cool.
You'd have to have a lot of mana though, because it's black, and then like what do you got left? 3, 4.
Oh yeah, you have a really low.
And 2 mana for Born Upon the Wind, so maybe you get 1 spell or 2 spells out of it. Yeah, I was mentioning like Chasm Sculptor, Jace's Erasure, stuff that's like it triggers off your draw and mills your opponents. This is ways to be like, because famously these are cards you wish you could have run with Necropotence, but you couldn't, and now you're like, yeah, but when I draw 37, then I just mill everyone out. So let's do that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. This card's neat. And I do think a lot of people are like, well, why not just run Necropotence? And I think there are reasons.
There are. I think Necropotence is still better, though, don't you? Yeah, in most decks. But there will be at least some decks where this is a little bit better. But I also think Necropotence is probably a little too good, and I often don't play it.
I agree.
So for them to give us one that maybe falls under the threshold that I've set my own self to, like, you know, we talked about in that one episode, is like, I'll call it the Jessica's Will line.
Yeah.
It's like Jessica's Will is just above where I think only certain of my decks I want to be that powerful. Does this go above that? Because if it's below, it'd be great. Then if my 7s can have a Necrodominance and it feels okay.
Yeah.
I think some testing is what will be required to figure that out, though.
For sure. It's very similar to like the Chthonian Nightmare thing, where it's like it could be a really fun card or it could be a really, really
I almost guarantee Chthonian Nightmare is in the Jessica's Will. Is in the Jessica's Will. But it's, you know.
Right.
Then there's another line, which is like the Mana Crypt line.
Mana Crypt to the One Ring.
Yeah. Now, I don't think, hopefully it's not above that line.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question. The forbidden line.
It could be above the Mana Crypt line, which would be nuts. There's only Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, One Ring. There's only a few cards up in there. Yeah.
All right, this next one's interesting. It's Null Elemental Blast, and it's an instant for a single colorless mana. So this has to be specifically colorless mana, not generic mana. And then it says choose one, counter target multicolored spell or destroy target multicolored permanent.
It's very cool. It's like red elemental, blue elemental blast, but null blast. I mean, I really like the nod here.
The nod is awesome, and we're in a format that is just ripe with multicolored stuff.
Yeah.
To me, this card says counter target commander, destroy target commander on a single colorless instant, which is real.
Very good.
I think, like, genuinely the only question I have about this is, can you cast it?
How many sources in your deck that create colorless mana do you have to run this? Because undoubtedly, if you were to say every time I draw this I have the ability to cast it, then I think it goes in a lot of decks, most decks.
Yeah.
Right? Because there will be targets and it's so efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how many sources do you think you need? Because
I think it's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's like 15 sounds high, but
I think that's probably high. I think you can probably get away with 10.
Yeah, but like it's in that range, right?
Yeah.
It's 10 to 15. And if it's how safe you are.
If you have 5 sources of mixed colors mana, there's just going to be too many games where you draw this and it just isn't a card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't make this mana off treasures. You can't make this. It is actually deceptively hard to get the colorless mana. We do run a ton of sources of colorless naturally. The talismans all make colorless mana, Soul Ring, Mind Stone, Liquid Metal Torque. Like there's tons of these that we just naturally put in decks. But I don't think we naturally put enough in that this just goes right in. So I do think there's bending that needs to happen.
But I don't know. I think you would need some other incentive. Like I wouldn't change my mana base to run this card. My mana base would already have to exist for a deck. And I look at it and go, oh, this thing already has 15 pieces of colorless mana production just because of whatever else it's doing. That means it's a candidate to put this spell into.
So here's the way I thought about it is like if I'm playing white, I'm not running this.
Right.
If I'm playing black, I'm probably not running this because I just have better removal in those two colors.
Yep.
So if I'm playing blue, do you run this? Like regardless of mana sources, let's just assume you can.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, but I mean I got counterspell, so like I can answer most things.
Yeah. So it feels like in blue you're like probably not. It's red and green where I really start to think about this. And green is going to have the hardest time getting colorless sources into their deck. So,
although I will say green's a lot easier because you put one waste in your deck and all your ramp growths, your cultivates become a possible source. So you could conceivably put one diamond mana source, one waste in your deck and have 9 ways to get it.
Count all your basic fetching cards as colorless sources.
And now all of a sudden it's like I made one change, got 10 sources. You
Absolutely.
know, and then all of a sudden you could run it. So maybe it does want green decks in some ways. It would just require that one little change. And I have a few decks that run one waste for this reason. Like I have an Eldrazi Displacer and it's got green and I just know like my fetchers can go get a wastes.
Yeah.
So
the big thing that I noted too is Nykthos Shrine to Nyx taps for colorless.
Yeah.
And if you're playing in a few color deck, or if you're in all the like mono green or mono red, you're probably running Nykthos, and that's a great source that you're tutoring for anyway. So all of those tutors for Nykthos also get your colorless for this.
Yeah.
So I think if you're in mono green, you're in mono red, you're in Gruul, this is a really efficient interruption piece that it is worth bending a little bit to get there. I think the most natural fit is like mono red artifact decks where you just have a ton of colorless sources, but it might be worth bending green a little bit to get this in there.
You know, thinking about blue, it might be worth running just depending. I don't feel that I usually am like, oh, I need a lot of removal in blue. But the one thing I'll say about blue, and red has this a little bit, is looting and rummaging. So you have the ability to be like, if I don't have the colorless right now, it's not as big a deal in my deck because my deck has a decent amount of ways to just like dump this in the bin for a new card. And I think I would consider that as well as a safety valve of like, because what you don't want is, you know, very high percentage. And by that, I mean like even 15% of the time where this is a dead card in your hand because you can't cast it.
Absolutely. That being said, it's very powerful. Pain lands also help with this.
Yeah, it is limited though too, and there's plenty of monocolored stuff out there. And as I think about it, like, you know, there's not a lot of multicolored enchantments you want to get rid of, you know, so I wouldn't bend a lot for this effect because there will also be times where, I can cast it and the target that I really want to hit, it doesn't hit because it's a monocolored thing. Yeah. Okay.
It's interesting. I'm curious to see how it feels in my hand.
All right, the next one, another homage.
Yeah.
To an old card. All right, this is Powerbalance. It's red for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the two spells have the same mana value. And very famously, Counterbalance is the card that this is a reference to. This is a lot more fun version of Counterbalance.
It really is. I love that because Counterbalance feels fun because you're like, I play with the top and I try and do the thing, but it's such a rude effect to repeatedly do.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're like, I mess with the top of my library, do the thing, and what's the outcome? Nobody does anything.
Nothing happens.
You stop it all. Yeah.
I do all the stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Powerbalance is like, your thing still happens. I just also do something.
Yeah. My favorite move with this one is you can vamp something to the top.
Yeah, sweet. So you're like, what'd you cast? 6 CMC? Hold on.
Yeah, I got one of those.
That's cool.
At instant speed, you can do that. That's pretty cool.
You can Enlighten Tutor to the top, Worldly Tutor to the top. A lot of different colors. Vamp is anything. So yeah. But it's, you know, that's cool. That's a cool usage.
That's my favorite like combo with this card because it is going to be tricky to trigger this a lot.
Right.
Like you're going to need a lot of top deck manipulation. You're going to need a lot of mana values that's like sort of toward the middle. And genuinely, I think that the more powerful the meta, sort of sadly, it gets better.
Right, because they scrunch all their CMCs down towards the 1, 2s, and 3s.
Exactly. So you're more likely to hit. Whereas in casual, we're like, we run 12 drops and 4 drops and who knows.
Right.
So there's a lot wider range that you have to hit. Which is why the tutors to the top or the you know, like a scroll rack that helps you manipulate what's on top of your library is going to be pretty important for this.
Yeah. Top deck manipulation, which is top, scroll rack, stuff like soothsaying, even just a regular brainstorm. I think you need a certain amount of that to probably play this card. It's probably not going to generally just be good as like a fun thing I'm going to do. So sometimes I hit because it's really going to be a pretty low chance to hit, right? Like what's the most in any column? It's probably 2-drop or 3-drop. And it's probably like 20% of your deck maybe is in one of those categories at the most.
Yeah.
20% is not a very high hit rate. 1 in 5 spells cast, you have a chance. And you can't move the top of your library with this thing. So if it's a land, it just won't get anything while it's a land. And if it's a 5-drop, it's just, you know, not a high chance of what it is. And also, if they cast something, they know that CMC is safe.
Right.
So you really can only play this if your deck, you look and your deck already wants to play around with the top of its library, already has Sensei's Divining Top, Scroll Rack, Soothsaying, that kind of stuff. And then you go, oh, I'm already doing that. Now this card becomes a candidate to go in my deck. Kind of like, what was the last card we just talked about? Null Elemental Blast.
Yeah, exactly. You can't bend your deck. It would require way too much of a bend. So if you're doing like Elsha of the Infinite type stuff, first of all, it's very powerful. Good for you. But
you probably don't need this.
You probably don't.
Good for you, and good job. You're doing great.
You've got lots of game actions. Stay busy. That's the kind of deck that would want this.
Yep. Oh, great.
But it does feel like an Izzet card. It really feels like you need blue in the deck to play this card.
Yeah.
Okay, we have lots more cards to talk about, including some of the most powerful lands that have been printed, honestly, since Modern Horizons 2.
There's an insane land in this.
There's so many. There's multiples that I'm like, what? And we're going to talk about all of those and more after a few words from our sponsors.
Bruce and Silas, Vice Cops. This episode, just deserts.
Come on, Bruce. We're right on Oko's tail. We can bring this whole crime ring down. Ah! What happened to you?
The hot desert sun has changed me. I'm dying. Go on without me, Silas.
You're just dehydrated. You need Liquid IV, America's #1 powdered hydration brand. Here, just tear open a stick, pour it into your water, stir, and drink.
Hey, that's good.
Liquid IV comes in a ton of flavors and is easy to take with you on the go. I always carry an extra tube of sugar-free green grape with me, because whether you're chasing a criminal through the desert or just enjoying a summer day, heat is no joke. Luckily, Liquid IV has 8 vitamins and nutrients and 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink.
I feel the electrolytes working. Let's get that scumbag.
So hot, so tired.
Gotcha! Oko, more like Slowco.
How? I drank the leading sports drink.
Ha! That's where you went wrong, villain. Turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code COMMAND at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code COMMAND at liquidiv.com.
Yes, I win! Probably, anyway.
Probably. What's going on?
I just goldfished a huge turn on ARCHIDEKT. Check it out, they've got the best playtester in the business. Playing and tapping your cards is as simple as clicking them. Everything goes right where you want it, but you can drag things by hand and group them together in different ways too. Then there's easy shortcut keys for things like making copies, sending cards between zones, and starting the next turn.
Nice, so this is a Traxa. All that proliferating's gotta take a while.
It doesn't actually. Just right click and hit proliferate all counters.
Oh wow, yeah, you probably do win.
I think so.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/command-zone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command zone. All right, we are back. We are talking about the cards in the 99 that you need to know about from Modern Horizons 3. We are in the third act, which is where the heroes triumph. So
dramatic conclusion.
That's right. We're coming from our low point, and we are going towards the dramatic conclusion and the ultimate triumph of our heroes. And the first card we're going to talk about here is Ripples of Undeath. It is 1 in black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. Then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those cards into your hand. So you mill 3 in, and then you have a choice to pay a mana and 3 life, and then one of the 3 you milled, you can choose to put that in your hand.
So this isn't Sylvan Library.
No, oh, yeah.
But it is a little.
That's an interesting comparison.
It's a little.
Yeah.
Like you see 3 cards
You see
and
three
get to
cards.
pick the best among them. You pay a little life. You do have to pay mana for it.
Which I think changes a decent amount, but still, you're right. It's not 4 life, it's 3 life. And
You're
you
also
can't choose
milling.
to get all 3 cards if you want to. But also, you still get your draw step, so you're getting a second. Yeah, interesting.
I think this card is incredible. I'm super, super high on Ripples of Undeath. I don't think it's like crazy busted.
Yeah.
But it's exactly the kind of piece that I want in almost all of my black decks, which is just a cheap thing I can put into play that's going to mill me incidentally.
Yeah.
And that does not really exist, weirdly.
Yeah, we play Stitcher Supplier and stuff just because that's an efficient way to mill yourself. And there's like, when you want to mill, there's ways to do it, especially if you don't have blue.
Yeah.
You run pretty
green.
shallow. Pretty quickly as far as like real early efficient ways. And the fact that I didn't really think about this until you wrote it down, and I was like, because I looked at the cards, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then you were like, but what if you just want to mill yourself? I'm like, oh, if you just think of it as a 2-mana enchantment that mills you 3 every turn,
That's awesome.
it's not bad. And then the fact that like, sometimes I want that card. Yeah.
Give me that land or whatever.
Yeah. You don't have to do that every turn, but you do it 2 or 3 times a game, and it's actually been card advantage for you.
Yeah.
And a lot more than just the cards you drew, because all the cards are put into the graveyard. Yeah.
So this is like, you pay an extra mana and you draw a second card for your turn, and then you mill 2. You see 4 cards on your upkeep, and it's a 2-mana enchantment. That synergizes with the rest of your deck, hypothetically. Like right now we run Cemetery Tampering, and this is a 3-mana like hideaway enchantment that just does this basically, and then cast the spell maybe sometime eventually.
If it's good,
which it might not be. And I do not like Cemetery Tampering. I think it's too expensive. Because
when you said we run, I was like, I don't.
I mean, it's like pretty high on like EDH ranks because it's like recurable mill in mono black. And this is finally a card that's just like, ugh, not that. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Like the best way I was running Mind Rack Harpy in a deck recently, which is a 4-mana Harpy that mills 3 cards a turn. And it's a 3/2 flyer. I was running it in the DSA deck.
That's like draft chaff.
Yeah, it's draft chaff. I was like, this cannot be the best option. And it was.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a flyer and it mills. It's good. So I'm really excited about it. It feels like it fills a big, big hole, and it's powerful without feeling crazy broken.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of crazy broken.
Oh yeah, this card's cool.
Go ahead.
It is Shifting Woodland. It's a land. This is not the land I was referring to as
I'm shocked.
Crazy
I assumed
powerful
it was
land,
this
but
one.
this is crazy powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of a different one. And I sort of forgot about this one, but this one's also good. Shifting Woodland enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest. You can tap it to add green. It also has Delirium, so you can pay 2 green, and then Shifting Woodland becomes a copy of target permanent card in your graveyard until end of turn. Activate only if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. So this does.
This is the green one in the cycle with Arena of Glory.
Yep.
We're not talking about all of them because these are the 2 that are most applicable.
Yep.
And it just turns into something in your graveyard as long as you've milled a little bit.
It's pretty good with Ripples of Undeath.
It's very good with Ripples of Undeath.
Yeah.
It can turn into a Ripples of Undeath.
Oh.
Doesn't do anything. I mean, the first thing that you see when you look up what people are doing is they're like, turn it into Omniscience.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's great.
good.
4 mana
That's good.
Omniscience as long as Omniscience is in your graveyard.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
On a land,
Yeah.
it does turn into an enchantment. But
I mean, this is better than what's the mirror?
Mirage Mirror?
Mirage Mirror. It's better in some ways, is what I meant to say, because it's often easier to get big broken things into your graveyard than on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
An Omniscience, it almost makes more sense that it would be in a graveyard than out on the battlefield because it costs so much mana. But milling it or looting it or rummaging it there,
Entombing it.
yeah, costs almost nothing, right? It often just replaces it. So that's why this becomes so powerful. And then the turn, yeah, it's a sorcery speed only, but you can
not.
often. Oh, it's not only sorcery speed.
It's not.
Oh, geez, it is literally Mirage Mirror.
It's literally not.
But even then, it's like you do it on the turn, you turn it into the thing. So the Omniscience thing is definitely in play because of looting, rummaging, self-milling.
Oh, yeah.
That's just one example of just anything.
Big and broken.
Yeah, 7+ CMC. You're just like, I'll just turn it into that because
Yeah.
it's 4 mana to turn into that.
Something that I was thinking about is if somebody, like, if you get attacked with 8 creatures or for, like 8 power or something like that, an instant speed, they turn, like, the land into an old gnawbone.
Oh, boy.
And just make, 8 treasures that
Yeah.
they just spent 4 mana on. You're like, I wasn't even looking at your lands.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Kamal Heart of Krosa is the overrun. That's like 8 mana. If he's just in your graveyard, this is 4 mana overrun that you can do every turn.
Nuts.
Until they either answer a land or answer your graveyard.
And this has, again, almost no cost to your deck building. You take a forest out and put this in, and your deck didn't change basically at all, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not even a land that comes in tapped most of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very, very good.
It's also another combo with Dark Depths. If Dark Depths
Yay!
is in your graveyard, you pay 4, you turn it into Dark Depths, you sacrifice it. Ta-da!
had no-
Instant speed, merit, lage. You've done it.
You've done it.
Turn into a Bolas' Citadel. That's cool. This land's sweet.
Yep.
Speaking of sweet, I love this card. It's 6. Just 6.
Where's Ren?
Went to 7.
Wow.
Ren and 7 is literally a card.
Oh, right, it's true. Wow, just 6 is just out there. I didn't even think of the numbers in that way, but that is,
Yeah.
Poor
Well,
6.
I think Ren is technically now not with us anymore. I think
Okay.
they sacrificed.
I didn't even think about it. There's Red and 7. I didn't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
like what happened to 6. I thought 6 got leveled up to 7.
No, 6 is just
6 is
chilling
still
now.
out there, like just being like
6 is single and thriving. 6 all on his own is 2 and a green for a legendary tree folk with reach. Whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land from among them into your hand. Great. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace.
And retrace means you can discard a land to cast that spell from
Yes.
your graveyard.
Importantly, it doesn't exile.
Yeah, you can as many lands as you've got. I mean, assuming it comes back to your graveyard when you've cast it,
Yeah.
you can add mana. You can keep doing it.
So all of your lands turn into a like nature's spiral. It's just like I get this back, I cast it.
Yeah.
The most broken stuff you can do with this is like baubles.
Yeah.
Is you just basically cycle lands for free. You can
free.
cast a Mishra's Bauble, crack it, cycle another land, cast Mishra's Bauble. It doesn't exile, so you can do that all day if you'd like.
I mean, that's the most synergistic way to do it. But what's truly broken about this, or broken, it's fine, is just the amount of flexibility it gives you.
Yes.
So as long as your graveyard is something that you're actively trying to fill, maybe with
Life from the Loam.
Then
Then you get
yeah.
lands back and you mill more.
Life in the Realm of Retrace is nuts, yeah. But this says every time you draw a land, it becomes a tutor for anything that's in your graveyard. And you're just like, oh, I got 30 things in there. This land is you'd think of it as a demonic tutor.
Yeah, it's any permanent spell in your graveyard.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But
still.
Yeah, so that's why I think, I mean, this obviously is very powerful because of that reason. But it's interesting because it's a 3-drop that's more powerful later game once you've had a chance to set it up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a green card that goes in a self-mill list that if you're playing Life from the Loams, if you're playing Dakmor Salvages, if any sort of Golgari graveyard pile is where 6, I think, is going to be most at home. 2/4 is not super easy to attack with on a commander board in the late game, so I wouldn't rely on that mill, but this recursion is just really, really great. It's like an Eternal Witness that blinks itself for every land in your hand, basically.
Yeah, it's a payoff for having filled your graveyard. So if your deck is filling its graveyard, I would consider this as one of your payoffs.
This is a cool card. I want to try it in a couple of decks. It's also really gross with Gitrog. I know a lot's really gross with Gitrog.
Yeah.
But you discard a land. Like if you discard a land
to cast a spell,
to cast a thing, and you draw a card. Ugh.
Turns out Gitrog's pretty good.
Pretty good.
All right, the next one, another blue counterspell. It is Strix Serenade. 1 blue for an instant. Counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token with flying.
That's all the other things, except battles.
Yeah, so Swan Song already exists and does enchantment, instant, or sorcery. And this says artifact, creature, or planeswalker that it can counter.
Yeah.
Those things are not as good to counter as the other things.
Yeah.
It's because creature has just every color has a bunch of ways to deal with creatures. So that one you're not hurting for. You can deal with creatures, and the things that are the hardest to stop are usually instants and sorceries.
Right. If I'm running counter spells, I'm usually holding them for instants and sorceries, like stuff that I can't deal with in any other way.
Yeah.
Or like I'm protecting from removal spells or board wipes or other things I can't stop.
Yeah. In blue, I would say artifact could fit the mold if you're in like blue black or just mono blue. Artifacts are troublesome once they hit the board. Planeswalkers generally not because you got flying, and creatures generally not because you've got bounce spell type stuff. Yeah. So you're not prioritizing those. So you would often hold your your counterspell, even if it could counter a creature, because you've got other ways to deal with it. And the fact that that's sort of the main thing of the bunch that Strix Serenade is countering means that like I just think it's not very good.
I don't think it's very good. It's not Swansong. It doesn't do what Swansong's good at, which is winning counter wars. I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It can't counter other counters.
No.
And you generally want your counters to be able to do that too.
Yeah. I don't love it. Cute bird, though.
It is a cool little homage.
Oh, speaking of broken lands,
now this is the one I was talking about because it's crazy.
I love this card. I don't
know if it's more powerful than the other one, but it's weirder.
It's so much cooler.
Yeah.
It makes me...
Who would have thought they'd ever... Like, I don't think I ever would have thought that this stuff would be on a land.
I think about this card all the time.
It's weird, yeah.
Because there was definitely a period of time when I was thinking about it. Right, let me read it.
Okay.
It's Talon Gates of Madara. It's a land. It's a gate, sure. When Talon Gates of Madara enters the battlefield, up to 1 target creature phases out. Then tap, add colorless. 1 and tap, add 1 mana of any color. And then 4, put Talon Gates of Madara from your hand onto the battlefield.
So you can use it as a true protection or removal spell.
Yeah. At instant speed. It's also ramp.
Yeah. You can just ramp it out for 4. Yeah. It fixes something out. What?
It's my favorite move. So I've been thinking about this card for ages. I was like, how good is it? I was like, are you going to hold it? When are you going to play it? So when you draw it late, it's great. It's a phase removal protection piece. When you draw it early, it's the land. It's fine. What I really like is in that mid-rangey turn, when you have like 3 or 4 mana, and you can cast a Beast Whisperer on 4, or on, when you have 4 mana and then a land drop, and you play this, phase out your Beast Whisperer until your next turn.
So you get interesting.
So they have a very small window to remove this creature, where you're like, I'm going to have a really sweet turn with this Stormkiln Artist.
It's for those creatures that you're like, please just live to my next turn. Yeah. This says it'll live to your next turn.
Yeah.
For the most part.
If they remove it right now, like sure, but they're not ready for it right now most of the time. And then it's a fog. It removes an attacker, or it saves your creatures from a board wipe. It's insane.
It's crazy. I mean, yeah, the versatility of it is... I don't know. I really like it.
Yeah.
Because and later game, like it could be really important to just remove an important piece off your opponent's board to open them up for attack, or just know that like their main strategy shut off until their next turn, and it's on your land drop. Like nuts. Also, I loved bounce lands before, and I just love them even more now. Like this is great. Phase it out. Next turn, bounce that land back command. Phase something else later. For 4 mana, I can even put it right back out. Play. Yeah. Just so many cool uses. And I will say, it's interesting. Always play it as your land drop if you're going to miss your land drop.
Yeah.
That's how you should look up basically all of these, all MDFCs, everything. Just do not miss your land drop in favor of like, the only time you consider is if you got 10 plus mana already.
Yeah, missing your land drop deletes your arcane signet. Like it just don't miss it.
Yeah, I don't care if it's Balaged recovery. Just play the land out. It's way better for you. Yeah, but
it's but the fact that even at sorcery speed, if you play it as a land, you can just be like make your mana dork like gone for a second.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places in games where that would really like hinder your opponent, where they're counting on that creature being there to survive or something, you know, or to just be able to interact or anything at all. And you're like, you know, how many games have there been where you just need to make somebody blink to start what you know kind of is there to happen, and you're forcing the moment, and that causes, you know, something advantageous for you to just get the information you need a lot of times. A lot of times I'm just like, I need to make them do something so that somebody has to react, and now that reaction chain is started so that I can make my decision. And this can do that. Just pressure them, like, boom, target that. What are you going to do?
Because I have swords in hand. So, like...
Yeah, and this is free.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I played my land drop and it did it.
This is great against Ward, too. Like, because not cheating it into play, but playing it as your land drop is free, so you only have to pay the Ward cost to phase it out for that turn. It's like, you know, it's not great against, like, Voyas that are attack triggers that are on their turn, but on, like, just for stuff that's, like, just wait a second.
Right. Just slow down.
A second.
Yeah. I like this card a lot. And the fact that it makes colorless and colored mana also kind of helps you open the door to some of this colorless stuff we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to find room for utility lands because there's so many powerful ones. But this one I think is worth making space for. It's very cool.
This one I feel like we will see a decent amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it happens, you'll go, oh!
It's the type of card, too, that
gates!
Just, it's also a removal spell that's not a spell.
Can't counter it, yeah.
Difficult to counter. It falls in that Boseiju spot. I mean, it is 4 mana to do that part of it, which I think will be tougher than most people think, but there will be times when like they're like, I got counter magic, I got myself covered, blah, 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 and you go, and they're like, that one I wasn't ready for. We're getting more ready for it now because of Boseiju and stuff, but still.
Like, phase out your commander, cast a board wipe.
Yeah.
Sick.
Pretty good.
That's great.
Yep,
it comes in untapped. It can use you, like, help you cast that austere command or something.
Pretty great.
All right. This next one's a big one.
This is one of the... Probably the other one I've seen the most call for, like, this has to be banned before it's even come out yet.
It's Ulamog the Defiler. 10 mana, legendary creature Eldrazi. He's a 7/7. What? He's so small. Just wait. When you cast this spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. Start counting. Just one opponent, though. It has ward, sacrifice 2 permanents. Brutal. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. So that includes like that whole library you just exiled or just other spells in exile. Usually I think it'll be like 6, maybe 7. Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it.
Annihilator, famously that mechanic that everyone's been clamoring to have make a return.
Yeah, especially in big numbers.
It's like, what? Why? I don't think it's broken like Banworthy, but it's like, I still don't know why this is what we want this card to be doing.
It's... as a spell that you cast, it's pretty good. It's good in a box. You cast it for like 10 mana is a lot, but for Eldrazi, it's not that many.
Yeah.
You exile there and it comes in and it's a 13/13 with Annihilator 6. That's very good, especially if it has haste. If you reanimate it, it doesn't really do anything.
You didn't cast it.
It'll count other things in exile, I guess, that are already in exile, but it doesn't really do anything unless you get counters on it.
Yeah.
So you could play this in a +1/+1 counter deck that loads this thing up with +1/+1 counters, but that doesn't seem super efficient.
So it enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value amount of cards in exile. So it doesn't care if it exiled them. So it will get the counters
Yeah,
even if you didn't cast it.
But there has to be something else in exile already.
Yeah, I guess if it was the second time they cast it, or you Swords or Path something somewhere might be in exile.
It's possible. So you get 1 or 2 counters on it, maybe.
I mean, Annihilator 3 is still insane.
Yeah. I don't think this card is as cracked as everybody thinks it is. Because it's like, yes, it is Annihilator. Its protection isn't that good. It's only good against Ward 2s a lot, but like we're playing in a time in Commander.
You mean Ward 2, sacrifice 2 permanents?
Yeah, Ward 2 permanents. That's what I meant.
Is that worse or better than Ward 2?
What do you mean worse or better?
Would you rather have Ward 2 or Ward sacrifice 2 permanents?
I would rather have Ward sacrifice 2 permanents.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's just, at least it's not, if they cheat this thing out into play, it's not impossible for me to remove. But like when this comes into play, it is, first of all, only one person's problem.
Wait. Sorry. When you said you would rather, I meant if it was your card.
Oh, if it was my card, I would rather have it as a Ward 2 man.
Okay, yeah. I sort of think so too, which is weird.
Yeah, I
think most people would immediately think Ward Sacrifice 2 permanents is better than just Ward 2, and I don't think it necessarily is.
We're in a time in Commander where everyone's playing make as much stuff as they possibly can. Right. Everything makes tokens, everything makes food and maps and clues and food, and you have tons of scrap.
Right.
Permanents are nothing.
Right. It's not that hard to sacrifice 2 permanents.
Which also makes Annihilator worse.
True. But Annihilator 6 is still...
It's a lot.
Like, it's second hit, you're kind of out.
So I think if you're the player that has all the stuff, they're probably not coming after you. They're coming against the player that has
less stuff,
that has 6 lands and 3 creatures and is going to have to sacrifice real stuff.
Probably, yeah.
Or the player who's ahead.
So that sucks because the person who can afford to sacrifice the permanents to remove this thing is not the person who's probably going after.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it. Is I do think if this Ulamog comes down, you know exactly who it's attacking, and it's your problem to deal with because the other players don't care.
Right.
This isn't the kind of Ulamog that gets you value off of you don't draw cards, you don't impact the board in some other way other than having a big thing. So they're just yeah, go nuts, go attack Steven, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, interesting. I do think this is quite good and quite powerful, and I think that even not casting it, there's often a thing or two in exile, and you can, of course, put it in a deck that has some ways to exile things, and then reanimating it's not that bad because, something gets exiled, and those things only have to be 3 or 4 CMC for it to be pretty good. And also, if you are a 1/1 counters deck, you could think about putting this card in your deck because, again, cheating it in or not. I was sort of thinking about, if I think of this and well, I can't say old Ulamog, and I can't say new Ulamog anymore. So I don't know what to call the middle new Ulamog.
The exile the top 20 cards?
Yeah.
Ulamog? Sure.
The one that exiles stuff when you cast it. 2 targets, right? I don't know what to call it, but it's the one we used to call new Ulamog, and now will be newish Malog.
Oldamog, Midamog, new
Mid-Lamog. All right. Is that one... because I think we all pretty much decided that the second Ulamog is better than the first Ulamog.
Right. Exile 2 things, attack, exile the top 20 cards. Your library.
Right. Is this one better than Mid-Lamog? Is it better than that?
I don't think so.
Because it doesn't exile the 2 things.
Yeah. When you cast the Mid-Lamog, you just get 2 things.
And that's still indestructible.
It's indestructible. It's way harder to deal with than this thing.
It still exiles 20 cards off their library and, which, hard to kill.
Is a clock, but it has indestructible to protect that clock. So it's way, half the removal spells in your hand are dead.
Yep.
This thing is Ward Sack 2 permanents. It's a big thing.
Yeah, it's not indestructible for sure.
Yeah. And if you sack 2 lands, that's better than sacking 6 things, so you're going to answer it. And
the thing about Mid-Lamog is you don't want to bounce it. So some of removal gets a little turned off. Most of the removal is exile now. Not all, though. There's still a lot of destroy running around, especially flexible stuff that destroy target non-land permanent kind of stuff.
I would rather play against this because I can interact with this.
Yeah, interesting. And I kind of agree, which makes me think, well, no, nobody's running around saying we should ban Mid-Lamog.
No.
Do we have to call it Mid-Lamog? Can we think of something better?
Ulamid? Ulamiddle? It's Malcolm in the middle, but Eldrazi's.
Ulamiddle. Listen, we got to figure out the naming convention. If you got an idea in the comments, please let us know how we talk about the 3 Ulamogs. Old Ulamog,
Ulamog.
Mid Ulamog, because we can't call this one New Ulamog because the other one was New Ulamog for so long.
It's
two Ulamog, one Ulamog, two Ulamog, three Ulamog.
Yeah.
Not bad. Two Ulamog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost my point. I think my point was, if we're not even sure it's better than Ulamog, then how could it be banworthy? Because no one's saying Ulamog was banworthy.
Yeah. Eldrazi's are supposed to feel scary.
Yeah.
They're the biggest bad in the game right now. Like, when they hit the battlefield, you're supposed to go, oh no.
Yeah.
And if it didn't do that, people would be like, why? And now that it does do that, they're like, rah!
Yeah.
It's allowed. It's allowed
10
to be
mana.
scary. It's 10 mana.
I feel like this is 10 mana that doesn't win the game immediately under almost any circumstances.
Yeah.
Even with haste, it doesn't win the game. It doesn't even really kill one player. It virtually takes them out, maybe, but like, what are you going to do? You got to follow up with another hit or something, right? Like, so.
Yeah. Would you rather play against this or the sorcery that returns all your stuff to your hand?
River's Rebuke?
River's Rebuke.
Oh, this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I might be able to kill it.
Yeah.
Also, I might just be fine with sacking 6 things or whatever. Yeah. I might be like, all right, 1 hit, exile my library. Like, I'm not dead.
Yeah.
I can still win that game. Like, I'm probably not advantaged to win it, but I have a possibility. Yeah.
I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
Is like, if one River's Rebuke is worse than this, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad, yeah. Also, don't River's Rebuke me, please.
Why does that card feel meaner than Cyclotic?
Because you have to pick one person. Yeah, it's not so bad. Everybody does this, but no, it's you.
Oh, it's your turn.
And they always pick me. All right, another land is up next. It's URZA'S Cave. It's a land. You tap it for colorless mana, or you can pay 3, tap, and sacrifice it to search your library for a land card, any land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So this so this is sort of 4 mana because you have to tap and sacrifice it also to go get your Cabal Coffers, your Urborg, your Nykthos, your Gaia's Cradle, your URZA'S Saga.
Yep.
Your Field of the Dead, your Talon Gates of Madara.
Yeah. Get them.
That's cool.
That's cool.
It's the same 4 mana that it would have cost you to put out from hand, but still, phase it out. Yeah.
Nice.
They think you're dead. Nope.
Nope.
I do have a chance here.
From URZA'S Cave, there is a gate. I think this card's super slick. And if you're running Expedition Map, I think you're probably running this. I might run this over Expedition Map in Serpent Index.
Interesting.
Like, if I have one thing I'm after, if I'm just going to get Nykthos most of the time, then I think I run this over Expedition Map.
I think I try and run both because 3 at once is, and this is 4, is a lot harder than 1 than 2.
Yeah.
But I could see the argument either way. Usually I'm running it in the Cabal Coffers package, in which case there are 2 lands you want to get, so you don't. And then once you have those other lands too, this is just a land that taps for mana, it costs you almost nothing. Yeah. That's why lands are so good when they do stuff. They just don't cost you much in deck building. No. Yeah.
I love it that this set really gives you a ton of choices and creativity and intentionality with how your mana base works.
Right.
I feel like with a lot of decks, you just default, you're like, I add in the shock lands and I add in the check lands and I add in the slow lands and then all the basics. Great, we're done, out of here. And when you have all these options to be like, okay, this one works for my graveyard. Is that good enough here? Can I bend this that way? It gives you a lot of customization. It gives you a lot of creativity. And it makes lands fun. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah, if you can squeeze a little extra value out of your mana base, that's an area where a lot of players aren't concentrating too. So you get to get some win equity there. That's, it's fun.
It's fun. Speaking of fun, it's a Gilded Drake. It's all right. It's Volatile Stormdrake. 1 and a blue for a 3/2 creature drake. It has flying and hexproof from activated and triggered abilities. Weird. When Volatile Stormdrake enters the battlefield, exchange control of the Stormdrake and target creature an opponent controls. If you do, you get 4 energy. Then sacrifice that creature unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. So this is sort of a funky Gilded Drake.
Yeah, it's Gilded Drake. They tried to put limits on, right? Like how big of the thing you could steal, kind of, I think. Yeah. The 4 energy ostensibly says, okay, 4 CMC or less is what you can trade this for, unless you've done some other work. Or unless you've been able to do something tricky with this thing. Similar to the Chthonian Nightmare, where maybe you can bounce this or figure out a way to kind of blink it, whatever, get extra energy somehow, save some up, get bigger things.
Yeah, the thing I really like about this one is you don't pay the energy to steal the thing, you pay the energy to keep the thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's kind of like the coin flippy counterspell where it's like, well, the downside of getting a big thing is not that the outcome is still good for you.
Right. This is like a 2 mana. They sacrifice a target creature and they get a 3/2 flyer.
Yep.
And that's
turn their Ulamog.
Yeah.
Sorry, their 3 Lamog. Turn their 3 Lamog into a 3/2 is something you can deal with. You had to sack 2 permanents or whatever. You didn't have enough energy to pay for its casting cost, but it still answered it.
Right.
Yeah, and then sometimes trade it for their
Beast Whisperer.
Sure.
Commander.
Yeah. Commander. Just shut off their deck sometimes.
Yeah.
Most decks, honestly, like 4 CMC or C or less is a lot of commanders out there.
Yeah, I wanted to walk through this real quick just to make sure everybody read the card fully, because it's when it comes in, you target a creature, and then if there's no target, you keep the Drake. So if it's the only creature on the battlefield, he's yours.
Yep.
Then you swap the creatures, so they get the Drake, you get the thing. Then you create the energy at that point, and then you can either pay or not. So you can bank the energy, or you and sacrifice the creature, or you can pay however much energy to keep the thing. So it has like sort of a multi-step process.
Yeah, and then if you didn't pay the energy, you sack the creature that you switched.
Yeah.
There's no scenario there where they get it back or anything. Now, they still have the Drake, but that's why we're saying you can get rid of a big thing. You sack it, but it died. And that's why they get a 3/2 flyer, because they have the Drake.
You could steal a thing with a dice trigger and sacrifice it under your control.
There you go. Steal their Kokusha.
Oh, that's fun.
That's pretty good.
They'll probably sack it in response, but that's okay. We tried. This is great with bounce spells. This is great.
Blink.
With blink spells, it is worth noting it is hexproof from activated or triggered abilities.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So you can hit this with spells. So you can spend like a capsize to bounce it back to your hand, but you can't bounce this with Teferi Time Reveler or something.
Oh,
like
Short of Hearthstone, which is what I put down.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a classic, like, get my thing back as his owner.
Right. I looked up all of the blink spells, and I was like, what can target anything and comes back under your control? And the only one I found was Slip on the Ring. It's exile target creature you own and then return it to the battlefield under your control. The ring tempts you. So this one, you can target the Drake that they have. It comes back and you can do the swap.
They tried to limit the nonsense you can do with Gilded Drake.
Yeah, they didn't want to put this in Modern and just have Teferi Time Raveler be like, boink, give me that, play it again, steal your thing, boink.
Yeah, that's smart.
Which, yeah, clever.
Yeah, and I think the safety mechanisms they put on are pretty good, but it's still playable.
Oh, yeah. I think this card's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's a great removal spell, and then it can steal super powerful permanents that are, even at 4 mana.
Yeah, you can still switch stuff, board wipe happens, reanimate it, switch stuff again. Like, that kind of stuff is still in play, so.
And it's, it's more accessible Gilded Drake for people who have never played with that card. It's really powerful, and it's fun.
People don't like it. They don't like you stealing stuff.
People don't like it.
Yeah, I have one Gilded Drake, and it is very good.
Yes. So keep that in mind when you're playing with it, but it's very fun. Oh, also, yeah, you can't like Eldrazi Displacer this thing.
That's another
it's
thing
all super scary.
All right, 2 to go.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
It is Warren Soultrader, 2 and a black for a 3/3 zombie goblin wizard. You pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, and create a treasure token.
So it's just pay life. You don't have to pay any mana. You don't have to tap it. You can sacrifice as much as you want.
Yeah, if you want to pay 9 life and have 9 creatures, you can make 9 treasure.
Yeah, seems good. Can you sacrifice itself? Another creature, not it.
Yep.
Just checking.
Pitiless Plunderer-esque, that's what it reminds you of?
It's both halves of the Pitiless Plunderer, right? Where it's the sack outlet and the payoff.
Yeah, Pitiless Plunderer needs another piece of the package, but no life is required, but true. And that often is one of the issues with Pitiless Plunderer is you're like, well, I don't have a way to sack everything. So
this doesn't do anything.
It's not as good. I'm just, I'm bashing them in there or holding them back as blockers, but...
Yeah, the pay 1 life is the downside here, I guess. But you're in black and you're sacrificing creatures. You're running Zulaports, you're running Blood Artists, you're running like the new Marionette Apprentice, which is not gaining you life, but is draining them the whole time. So they're paying the life too.
Yep.
There's no, and it gives you treasures that you store. This is Phyrexian Altar, right? It's Phyrexian Altar that you bank the mana?
Very similar. It's Phyrexian Altar, you bank the mana, but it costs you 1 life to sack the creatures. And Phyrexian Altar is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And one of the cards you're often in decks where it's good, you're like, I just need to draw it or find it. Like, that'll end the game.
Yeah.
So often you're in positions with aristocrat decks where it's like, if I just get Phyrexian Altar, that's it.
And now aristocrat decks have like draining when artifacts leave, they have draining when tokens leave, they have draining when creatures leave. So now this is like turns your creature into an artifact, drains them, and then turns that artifact into more drain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's really, really powerful. And, it's good with all the things you think it's good with. It's great with Corvold because you sacrifice a thing, draw a card, make a treasure, sacrifice the treasure, draw another card.
And then to cast the spells that you're drawing?
Yeah.
To then sacrifice to keep that chain going?
The thing I was thinking about was with Thelyss. At the beginning of your end step, you make a 1/1 white spirit creature token where X is the number of tokens you made this turn.
Ooh, and then you sack those tokens to make
all the
tokens.
treasures.
That doubles.
And then you make more. You make that many treasures every time.
It just exponentially keeps doubling, basically.
It doesn't double, but you make that many every single turn. So if you have 3 spirits, you sack the 3, you make 3 treasures.
Which makes 3 spirits.
Makes 3 spirits. Then you sack the 3 and you make 3.
True, right. Then you have 6. Yeah, that's true. This to me, and Pitiless Plunder sort of slightly fits this mold, but this even more so feels like the Stormkiln Artist of aristocrats.
Yeah.
Where it'll just allow you to keep that wheel churning.
Yeah.
This will be one of those cards that's just like, we're probably dead. Are we dead?
Yep. It looks like we're dead.
Yeah, it looks like we're dead.
Some combos to be aware of. It predictably combos with Chatterfang because Pitiless Plunderer combos with Chatterfang.
Yeah.
You make a treasure, it makes a squirrel. You sack the squirrel, you make a treasure, it makes a squirrel. It goes infinite if you have a Blood Artist effect. It goes infinite with Gravecrawler because it itself is a zombie.
That's nuts.
So now you can sack Gravecrawler, make a treasure, bring back Gravecrawler with the treasure, and you can sack it infinitely.
So now Zulaport or Blood Artist wins the game there. Yep.
It even goes infinite with Stimulus Package.
Stimulus Package.
Yeah.
Jeez, I have to read this card.
It's a 4-mana enchantment in Gruul that says sacrifice a treasure, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. So you sack a treasure, make a guy, sack the guy, make a treasure, sack
You need a Blood Artist again or a Zulaport.
Yes, again.
Yeah.
Those will give you the loop-de-doops, but the payoffs are many. And
there's a million Zulaports now.
Yeah. It's impossible not to find a payoff for this in the kind of decks that are going to run those combos. So, Chatterfang fans are happy once again. And this card's predictably busted. The big difference, I think, between it and Phyrexian Altar is this is not a mana ability.
Right, so they can technically respond to, the treasures being made.
Yeah, it's like if they split second anything, you can't respond with this, and they can respond to the sacks on the stack. Whereas with Phyrexian Altar, I guess they'd have to respond to the dies trigger rather than sacrifice itself.
Right, but you could still sack on top of that anything that's remaining if they went to Crossing Grip or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. That doesn't come up very often, but it is interesting.
It is interesting.
Know. All right, one more card to go.
Yes, and it's Wight of the Reliquary.
Great name.
It's Wight of the Reliquary.
Except for that it's not in white, but okay.
Yeah, it's W-I-G-H-T. Black and green for a 2/2 zombie knight with vigilance. Wight of the Reliquary gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Big. And then tap, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a land card, any land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle.
So giving Knight of the Reliquary vibes.
It is. It's giving exactly those vibes. Dead vibes.
Dead vibes. It's art's actually giving the dead vibes too.
Oh yeah, this is a direct reference for sure. So the interesting thing about Wight that's different than Knight is that where Knight sacks a land to get a land, this sacks a creature to get a land.
Yeah.
So it's actually ramp.
Which is, I think, generally better.
Generally better, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can find any land. So you can tutor up your Gaia's Cradle or Bajuka Bogs or any number of things. Your Field of the Dead, which is predictably extremely good with this card.
Make the creatures to sack to get the more lands to make the creatures to sack?
Yeah,
yeah, that seems good.
Yeah.
I mean, that loop is not that hard for black-green to figure out anyway.
Yeah. I think this is a great piece. I don't think it's super busted. I think it's going to go in a lot of the graveyard landsy decks and will do very well there.
It's going to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's a 2-drop.
Sack a Scoot Swarm to make a land to get a Scoot Swarm trigger.
Yeah, sure. Sure. But you already have Scoot Swarm, so you don't need to do anything else.
You need more lands. And Wight's here to give you those. It reminds me of Perilous Forays, which I always thought was a cool card.
I used to play it back in the day.
Too expensive.
Yeah.
That's it. That's Wight of the Reliquary. We talked about a ton of cards in MH3 today. Before we go, I want to talk about our favorites and the most powerful. Let's start with favorites.
Okay.
From the ones we talked about today.
Okay. My favorite one is Talon Gates of Madara.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
It's just cool. I don't know what decks I'm putting it in yet, but it's going to go in some.
Yeah, it makes you feel really smart, which is fun.
Just like a lot of choices. I like choices.
Yeah, choices
even though
are
in the middle, I'm like, sorry, hold on, I got to think.
If I do this, then what happens?
Yeah.
If I do this, then what happens?
Yeah. How about you?
This is a boring answer, but I'm really excited about Ripples of Undeath. It's just the kind of, like, I love when they design a card that fills a hole that I was like, why is there nothing here?
Right.
It feels like there should be, like, I've been looking for a black permanent that just mills one on your upkeep.
Yeah.
And this mills 3 on my upkeep. That's great.
Yeah, it's exactly it's similar to the type of card I would pick, which is like the Ledger Shredder type card. It's a 2-drop. It's going to grease the wheels for you. And so what if you'll feel like my strategy is going when that's your strategy. And it's nice to have it. There is a surprisingly few amount in black that sort of get that mill plan going right away. So
yeah, I like it a lot.
All right, well, what do you think is the most powerful card in the 99 from Modern Horizons 3? That's the question on everybody's lips. There's all these cards that people think should be banned.
I don't think I'm ready to ban any of them. I mean, I wrote down, I have so many question marks in this.
Right.
I was like, is it that? Is it like, I think the first one that you talk about is the blue counterspell. It's hard to argue with the most powerful, like a very powerful effect that's free.
Yeah. And we've seen Fierce Guardianship and Pact of Negation already be the most powerful in their respective sets. So it's kind of a safe call.
I think I like Volatile Stormdrake is going to be a big one. I like doing the inverse polarity. I think is really powerful and it's going to do some cool stuff. But I think after talking through everything, I think Chthonian Nightmare is just going to be the kind of card that when it hits the battlefield, you're like, oh, it's that kind of game. Okay.
Yeah, I said Flare of Denial. It's like predicting it's going to be sunny next week in Los Angeles, but I think Chthonian Nightmare would be my other choice because I agree. I think it's going to be very powerful. People are going to do a lot with it every time they play it. It's going to feel like, geez, they got so much out of that card. That card is just still, and you're going to, if they don't win when they play it, it's going to feel like that card's still doing 17 things. Like
it's still in their hand.
Yeah, and it's like they're just going to do everything they did again times 2. You know, so I feel like if they didn't win when they played, and I think there will be just a lot of instances where like the amount of value it accrues, if it's not like some sort of combo, is still just going to be like feel like insurmountable. Yeah,
we didn't talk about it, but the way that that card is typically played is you cast it and you return it to your hand right away.
Yeah.
So it stays safe in their hand. So it's not even on the battlefield, and you can just feel its presence in the game.
Yeah, it's usually like cast, get this, do that, bounce it, cast to get this thing, do that, cast, get this thing, do that. And if I'm not winning from that or didn't win, then it's like, okay, go, but it's in their hand.
Yeah.
And you're like, the thing they just did that made 50 million treasure and a bajillion things happened and, you know, it was all bad for us. It's in their hand and they're just going to do that again, but more times next turn. And that's that's what it'll feel like, I bet.
Yeah.
But you know what will stop that is a free counterspell.
That's true. You can sack creatures too.
Yeah, sack my Muldrifter and stop you from doing that.
You know what Flare of Denial can't stop is the shifting woodland.
Yeah,
that's like
true.
It turns into an omniscience.
It's like rock, paper, scissors.
You're like, The Chthonian Nightmare gets the acidic slime to blow up the...
It's funny because Shifting Woodland was my alternate for favorite card. So my two favorite cards in the set that I was choosing from were both lands.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
There's some sweet cards in this set. We talked about a ton of them. I mean, what do you guys think about Modern Horizons 3? Did it live up to all of the hype? Are you guys as excited about it as we are? What new cards slot perfectly into your decks? Or maybe what card do you think is the most powerful in this set? It is a hotly contested slot, as always in Modern Horizons sets.
Yeah, I would love to hear what people think out there is the most powerful card in the set.
I'm not confident in my answer.
Yeah, there are a lot, and I think it tells you that there are so many powerful cards. It's not because none are powerful. There's so many that I'm not sure which one is the most powerful.
Yeah.
We didn't even say third Ulamog or three Ulamog?
Three Ulamog.
3 Ulamog. Is it third or 3?
Ooh,
yeah, it's 3.
Try Ulamog.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
We're workshopping it. If you have any ideas, we'll take them. All right, if you want to pick up any of the cards from Modern Horizons 3, well, you know where to go. It's cardkingdom.com/command. They have all of the Magic products, singles, everything you're looking for. They have a huge inventory. So if you want to build a new deck, let's say you want to build a 3 Ulamog deck or a 3 Emrakul, 3 Emrakul, third Emrakul, whatever. If you want to build a new deck based on any of the Modern Horizons 3 stuff, or maybe you're like me and you're a little behind. You still haven't built your...
You're still working on the second Emrakul.
I'm still working on like the cards I liked from Karlov Manor. I'm so far behind. I'm like, geez, I was going to build that deck. Anyway, cardkingdom.com/command will have whatever you're looking for. They got it in the conditions you're looking for, and they are one place, one-stop shop. So you order your cards, you check out, and then they just all show up in one package on your doorstep, and you just add the basic lands you need, sleeve it up, and you are ready to go. No waiting for a bunch of different packages to arrive. If you're like me, then you don't really like to delay gratification. You just want to get it right now. Cardkingdom.com/command, the best way to do that.
Once those cards are in your hand, you're going to need to keep them safe. These are precious, precious Magic cards in Modern Horizons 3. Go to ultrapro.com/command. Pick up the highest quality Magic accessories on the market. They have a ton of cool new product from Modern Horizons 3. There's a ton of great art. Go check it out if you're excited about this set or if you're building any of the commanders. But also go look at their new line of Mana 8 playmats and binders and sleeves.
It's sweet stuff.
The binders are awesome because they're white on the outside and like have the big symbol on the front, so you can be like, these are all my blue cards. But then the cards, the actual sleeves on the inside are blue. So they look really sweet. They're a totally different look than anything I've seen coming out of ULTRAPRO or other companies. So go check them out. There'll be an affiliate link in the comments below. But you can always support us at ultrapro.com/command.
And before we go, don't forget, we are hiring right now. If you're interested in joining our team and becoming a production assistant here at the Command Zone, there is a link in the show notes, and you should definitely apply. All right.
Now comes the time when we thank everybody who already works here. Big thanks to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. Damon Lentz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, and of course, yours truly, Jimmy Wong. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Good point. That could be, your name could be on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, just click on that. Just click on that job description and apply. We need cool people.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.